Post draft, here we go. Not only was I able to get Coach on for day 3 of the draft, but Coach is back. Mondays are locked in again. So happy to have him. We're going to talk about all of the draft picks, what we think, round by round. We're also going to talk about Jamal Adams. Could he be a 49er? Then I've got some interesting draft stats that I want to go over, plus a little bit more. We're going to do all of that next. All right, welcome back to Last Second Sports, where we are giving you our take down to the last second. And it's Monday, which means I got my guy, Coach, back in the building. Coach, how you doing, my man?
My guy, back in the fold. We got so much content to talk about, man. My boy just been holding me down for the past month. I'm ready to go, man. I'm glad to be back, baby.
Yeah, man, I'm glad to have you back. It was nice to have you in on the final day of the draft. That was a nice little surprise, but a little bit, I mean, not like breaking news, but something worth talking about is Jamal Adams and the 49ers have mutual interests, supposedly. There is a gentleman who has close to 100,000 followers on Twitter. He is a beat writer for the Seattle Seahawks. And he wrote an article about the Seattle Seahawks and Jamal Adams still having interest in each other, despite the fact that Seattle cut Jamal Adams this offseason. He's just 28 years old. But within that article, he said that it will be harder to retain Jamal Adams than what it once was because other teams have interest. And he noted the 49ers as the main team in contact with Jamal Adams. So, question for you. Should the 49ers kick the tires on Jamal Adams? Would you welcome him to this team? What are your thoughts?
No. The only way, I don't think he's a fit. We already have a downhill box safety. We actually have 2 of them, in Jair Brown and Talanoa Ufunga. I mean, dare I say we might have 3 of them now with Malik Mustafa just getting signed. And they're all young, ready to go, and they fit our defense. Jamal Adams has always been, as far as his skill set is concerned, when you hear about what Jamal Adams can do, why wouldn't you want him? Big safety that hits like a linebacker, still has requisite speed, tenacity, aggression out the gate, somebody that you instantly want on your defense and gives your defense a calling card. The facts are is that he's just not durable. He's never available for a full season, and he seems to be trending down since he got over to Seattle. I think us picking him up for anything, honestly, would kind of be a regression more than a progression of what we're supposed to be doing. I mean, there's 2 schools of thought that we have right now. We're either trying to get better or we're trying to go get a Super Bowl. Either way, I don't see how having Jamal Adams in the building would answer any of those questions.
Yeah, it's interesting because part of me says, well, I don't want Jamal Adams back in Seattle just because I feel like if anybody can get the most out of him, it would be a coach like McDonald. Ooh, hands pissed off.
My bad, hand was pissed off, yeah.
He's like, no, don't go get Jamal. Yeah. But McDonald can really utilize him and I think get the best out of him. He's still just 28 years old. I know that he's not like the great Jamal Adams that he was when he was traded from the Jets. He had a pretty serious injury a couple years ago, but I feel like there's some tread left on the tires. And then my thought also comes down to, well, I don't know that he necessarily fits here. Plus, he's got a little bit of locker room issues, which I don't mind bringing on. I don't mind bringing on a guy like that. I feel like this team can absorb a player like that. But if I'm going to absorb an attitude like that, I want them to be a really, really good player. Jamal Adams is a really big name. I don't know that he's a really, really good player anymore. And so for that reason, I would tend to agree. Probably not. Now, if they still were trying to find a replacement for Greenlaw being out, I might consider it. I might consider it, but they went and got
I,
Devondre, so now it just doesn't make as much sense.
I see that too. I see the linebacker side of things, Jesse, where you're saying like, all right, maybe not safety, maybe not box, but Will, he could probably play a
Yeah.
little bit of Will. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
we can put him in there. But again, I feel like that would exacerbate what he's already had, like, which is he's got physicality on tap. Putting him that closer to the line of scrimmage, you may see some of the things that makes him great diminish, right? It's like some people's attributes, like outside of, inside of their skill set, kind of are they show themselves to be more advantageous in that medium rather than the original medium that it's for. Case in point, Deebo Samuel is an amazing wide back. He'd be a trash running back. You know what I'm saying? Like, do with running the ball from his positions and the packages that Kyle puts him in, make him advantageous. Like, make no mistake about it. All of the reps that Deebo gets when he was getting the ball on the ground were the best reps that you could get. He was running outside. If he was running into tackles, it was flow that was giving him cutbacks that he was supposed to be in between the tackles. He was not being utilized like a real running back. I feel the same way about Jamal Adams. Like, if we got him and put him at linebacker, I see all of those attributes that we see at safety that shine through, where you kind of put like 1 + 1 = 2 in a sense, where you're doing the math in your head and you say, well, if he could do this at safety, Lord knows what he could do at linebacker. No. If you put him at linebacker, he's going to struggle, especially at his age and especially with the way he stays healthy. So I would stay away from it. And just one more point. I don't think we're in kick the tires mode on any position on our team right now. Like, we're supposed to be one of the best teams in the league. One of the best teams in the league doesn't kick the tires on anybody. You know, it's like either you have a plan, you don't, or you adjust what you have and you move on. You don't go put 20 on 10 and go get a guy that you know is not really a fit, but he's kind of like, honestly, it kind of seems like a Kyle thing, like a Kirk Cousins type deal. Like, I can't let this guy go. At one point, it really made sense. Something happened where we zigged, we should have zagged. We lost the opportunity. And now, for some reason, we think that he's still that player when he was an asset to us all those years ago. Nothing stays the same. So he either get better or you get worse. So where do you think Jamal Adams is right now, juxtaposed to when we wanted to trade for him?
No, that's a very good point. I'd almost forgotten the fact that they were in the mix before Seattle gave up that major haul to go get him.
Mm-hmm.
The 49ers were in that mix, and now is probably not the time. Kind of a good point. Good point.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. We'll let him go back to Seattle and they can figure it out. How about that?
Yeah, let him have him. Let him walk around with those big ass wristbands on his arms. He needs to let that go. It is not 2005 anymore. It's just like some of these older football players tell on themselves.
When he he reminds me of I'm trying to think of the player that always comes back on Madden. Like, for those of you that play Mutt, there's always a player that would come back. It was like an old DB, and he'd always have the super like boxy long sleeves with the big wristbands.
The Randall Cunninghams.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Yeah.
No,
what are you doing, man? What are you doing?
Yeah, he keeps rocking like the 05 All-Star game sweatband pack. It's like, bro, come on, man. Get a little bit of drafted in there or something. Mix it up.
Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. All right. You were with myself on the final day of the draft, but you were not with me on the first couple days of the draft, which makes this conversation one that we definitely have to have. And I just really want to go pick by pick and see exactly where your thoughts were as these picks happened. And then maybe talk about why we like it, why we don't like it, why it could work, why it won't work. Sure. Throw in our opinions as well. Just kind of break it down and analyze it as much as possible. So round one, the 49ers stay at pick 31. They take wide receiver Ricky Pearsall from the Florida Gators. What were your initial thoughts, and where are you kind of at now with it today?
My initial thoughts was that it was a reach. I didn't understand it at first. I knew that they had to get a receiver, but it wasn't the fact that I felt like it was a reach because they got a receiver. I felt like it was a reach because if they wanted a receiver, there were much more viable options outside of Ricky Pearsall at 31. And for what you did later in the draft, you could have got much more value in the draft at 31. Now, that's not like hindsight. That's what was on the board at 31, where we all were. I was shocked that they went with Ricky Pearsall. Like, you know, if you really want to kind of just go there real quick, as far as slots that were in the mix at the time, outside of Ricky Pearsall, Lad McConkey was still out there. Malik Washington was still out there. Luke McCaffrey, believe it or not, was still out there. You also had, and not outside of slot, but the way it's looking, it seems as though that he was going to be, he's kind of being slotted to take over like a serious role. And if that's the truth, then Xavier Leggett was out there, Adonai Mitchell, Keon Coleman was out there. Troy Franklin got picked up the next day. Javon Baker, as we know, got picked up way later into the draft. And I just felt like it's not the fact that I don't like the player. I just don't like the pick. Not at 31. It's not to say that they don't need a receiver to kind of supplant, you know, the impending trade. You know, it seems like we just keep hearing stuff by the hour now, it seems, as far as whether one of these receivers is going to go or stay. And for that, like, that's a real issue, right? Like, if they know that one of these guys is going to go, then right, go get your receiver. But not a slot guy who's 23 years old, who took 5 years to turn it on. Without COVID, man, this kid doesn't even get drafted. That's just facts. That's not me hating on Ricky. That's just looking at the progression of what he was by the time he was done at Arizona, right? As Arizona State, rather. He just didn't have the numbers or the production to even be looked at as a viable draft pick, let alone a first-round pick. And for him to, I mean, did he do that much in 1 year for you to want to draft him in the first round? I mean, Jesus Christ, we just got over 3 years of Trey Lance. And all we did for 3 years is what? Go back and look at the red flags. That's all we did with Trey Lance. Like, dude, we should have saw this when he only played one game. We should have saw this when we saw his reps. We should have saw this when we saw the production that seemed like it was only in a vacuum, you know? And with this Pearsall kid, this is my thing. And this is going to be a theme that I'm going to hold throughout all of the picks, but I don't say this like trying to be snarky or anything, but just like, where is the upside? He's 23 years old, and his calling card is that he's polished. What does he do elite, right? He's got elite physical traits, but none of those things did him any better throughout his career. So you have to understand that whatever he's given us in the combine is a workout warrior bump. That's just the truth, man. He didn't show no 41-inch vert all throughout his entire career. I'm sorry, man. I watched the film. Now, he's efficient. He's fast. He's heady. He's extremely polished. He runs really great routes. He's sudden, but I don't think he's necessarily fast as far as long speed is concerned. He can get away from you. He can beat you on a route. But if you get an athlete on him, he's average. And that competitive fire dips a little bit when he feels like he doesn't have that edge. He's the type of guy that thrives on getting away from people, not necessarily running through people. And for what it's worth, I just don't see him as a viable, like, first round pick. You know, like, if you had to get rid of Debo or Brandon Ayuk for this kid coming in, I'd say that it's a downgrade, straight up, right? If you're looking at Brandon Ayuk, and this is another thing that I just looked at, it's like, all right, so we can scout what he is today, right? Which is incredibly polished athlete, good routes, strong hands, fast receiver, quick, twitchy, the whole nine. Gamer, game ready, good attitude. All right, that's what he's giving us now. And if you take that, right, you put that in what we have on our offense, you say, all right, that's a 1-for-1 lateral. Like, this guy can be an impact. But he's not going to be on the field with everybody. He's here to take somebody away. That's what you have to understand, right? So if he's here to take somebody away, you can't look at what he adds. You're going to have to look at what he replaces. And that's a whole different ballgame, because Debo and Brandon Ayuk are better than what they were when they were rookies. What is Ricky Pearsall going to be 2 to 3 years from now? When Brandon Ayuk first came in the league, he was raw. He was raw. His routes were not polished. Brandon Ayuk did not have the hands that he did. He was not routing people up. We still had to take him through the doghouse to be able to learn how to be a professional. He wasn't as physical. His entire approach to the game was different. every year since BA has been on this team, we've seen an uptick of him getting better, noticeably better. All right. Actually giving us the worth that we thought we were going to have when you draft a guy in the first round, because when you draft a guy in the first round, you're trying to take him to his second contract. I don't see Ricky Purcell getting better in 3 to 4 years, coming into his 5th year, looking at 29 on the front side of 29, staring at 30 in the second year of his second year contract, and Debo and or Brandon Ayuk are both out the building, and he's our bell cow. I don't see it. I just don't see it. Now, if he's a piece, then say he's a piece. All right. But what we did is, in a sense, for what was around, if you want to look at immediate impact, we're looking at a downgraded replacement of Debo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk or Juwan Jennings, whoever gets traded, and a punt returner. That's what we got. And he's got to be better than Keon Cole, Xavier Leggett, and all those boys that got picked directly after him. We're all going to be paying attention to that. So
yeah, well, we definitely are, and I think we're always going to pay attention to that. But the reason this one is different is if you took, let's say you took Leggett or Coleman or McConkey or Adonai Mitchell, you're taking the better prospect. According to most people thought that they were better prospects. Now, obviously, they weren't drafted that way. That's fine. But if you took, quote unquote, the better prospect, then yeah, people are always going to look, oh, this person was drafted after. But on that day, all you can do is take what is the best prospect. Because they didn't take the best prospect, now he has to be better than the guys who were better prospects, right? Like you chose not to take the better prospects. So now we're going to be looking close. And it's not even the wide receiver position. It's JPJ, it's Jerzon Newton, it's Kool-Aid McKinstry, it's Cooper DeJean. The list goes on and on and on.
It's a long list of guys that got picked after him, man.
That were really, really good. That were really good.
Johnny come lately. Like, you know how the college game is. It's like, dude, this guy, it's like guys know who's a dog and who just came on the scene. Even out of, this is one thing that I love, that when there were like rumblings on like this possibly could be a reach, right? There was a lot of people pushing back on the huge CJ Stroud clip of how upset he was that they didn't get Ricky Purcell. Dude, he was not upset that they did not get their number one receiver guy. He was upset because they thought that they found a little sneaky gem that nobody else knew about. He was upset that they lost what we eventually got, a piece, not a bell cow, not a game changer. He said it out of his own mouth. He was like, look, man, when I first saw Ricky Purcell, I said to myself, he's all right. I mean, he's okay. And even when he got to Florida, he struggled. But this last year, he really turned it on. Like, he's somebody who I really want. That sounds like somebody who finally put it all together, and now they see a role for him. This isn't somebody who they're trying to.
Well, and the Texans didn't have a first-round pick either, right? So He wasn't looking at it going, hey, take this guy in round one. He's like, hey, hopefully we can fall to us in the 50s or wherever they were picking, right? Which would have been about where he was slotted to go. Here's the other thing about Ricky Purcell. So I went and watched him against Georgia. I had watched him in a couple other games, but I really, really, really watched him against Georgia because I'm like, hey, I want to see him against like NFL corners. Like, what does it look like against NFL defenses? I'm going to tell you right now, he was strapped for a big majority of that game. He had 2 catches before the game was way out of hand and before they had put their backups in. One of them came on a flea flicker where nobody was around him. And the other one came after he was in motion and then ran across the middle of the field and was in one-on-one coverage with a linebacker. But every single route where he was against a starting corner, he couldn't break free. He couldn't break free. That's a little bit worrisome. So that tells me most likely he is better to be a slot receiver in the NFL. Okay, great. And he's better to get on the move so that he can have free releases. I'm fine with all of that, but that's not a guy you take in round one. You're taking a guy who should be the guy. Here's case in point. Look at it all the great slot receivers that have come in. Really, it started with Wes Welker, right? He was like the first wave of slot receivers. You had Wes Welker, you had Edelman. Now you have Cooper Kupp, Amendola. All of these guys were either UDFAs or Cooper Kupp was the highest out of all of them, third round pick. They're not first round picks. None of them are first round picks. So
I think even, and I gotta say this, putting Cooper Kupp in the same breath as those guys is disrespectful, man. I think that those guys are kind of like those guys are like Hunter Renfro-esque. Like these guys have a specific role. Like Hunter Renfro, I mean, like Adam Thielen and Cooper Kupp, they can go eat on an island. They can go out there at the X and go get paid. Like these dudes can't get out there and play bump and run and go get watch when a physical corner digs in this kid. They gonna strap the tattoos off this motherfucker, man. I'm trying to tell you, bro. I feel like it's fool's gold. We see, I mean, the dude looks like, I mean, if this was 7-on-7, we got us some good flag football situations that we got ourselves a nifty little receiver who can zip around. But this is the league, man. And he's just coming to the party in his 5th year as a receiver. Man, receiver ain't one of those what all-time receiver finally got it together in college his senior year? Name that guy.
I don't know. I'm sure I could find one if I really wanted to dig. But let's say this: we both do, however, think he's actually a pretty good player, right? It's just where he was drafted, and that is the difference. Now, here's the other thing: if the 49ers are to move a Deebo Samuel, a Jennings, or an Ayuk, I actually understand it more because you're talking about a polished player who has put it together, kind of figured out what he brings physically to the game, and is kind of hitting his stride. He's going to be 24 years old this year. So I'm like, hey, play him this year. Like, you've got to find a role for him. You mentioned Trey Lance. Now, Trey Lance needed to play because Trey Lance hadn't played. And anybody who knew and watched Trey Lance knew, hey, it just sat out a year. He needs to get on the field. The 49ers didn't play him, right? And that turned out to be the ultimate mistake. We still don't know what the hell Trey Lance is or could have been, right? Mm-hmm. But you look at this gentleman and Ricky Purcell, he needs to play for very different reasons. He's hitting his stride and he's going to be 24 years old when the season starts. So if you don't play him much this year, let's say he gets, I don't even know if we're going to find 35 catches for him. Just being real, go look at Jennings. What did Jennings have this year? Like 20 catches?
Yeah.
Jennings had like 20 catches. The 49ers don't throw the ball. I've got a chart I'll show you guys later, but they don't throw the ball enough to make it to where this guy can be a big time viable option in year one. So then assume that Deebo's gone next year. Okay, that's great. He fills in and all of a sudden he's getting targets. But that's not good enough for me, because the way that I see it is, at that point, he's 25 years old, which is exactly what Ayuk was this year, by the way, year 4 when he went ham, right? 25 years old. And what you saw was Brandon Ayuk, who came in the league, not as polished as somebody like a Ricky Purcell, but 4 years in at 25, boom, 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 really good. Well, now Ricky Purcell, instead of getting him in this year and playing him in a big time role, you're waiting till year 2. So now all these other receivers that we just talked about, the Adonai Mitchells, the Ladd McConkeys, the Keon Colemans, the Xavier Legette's, they've gotten their full year. They got big time play year 1. What do you think they're going to look like in year 2 at 23 years old, 22 years old for some of these guys? So I don't know, man. If you were going to play him now, great. But if the role is not that, and you're going to take one of his 5 years of eligibility away, essentially, before he reaches contract number 2, you just took a guy in round 1 to essentially be a big part of your offense for 4 years. Because after that contract is over, he's 29. You're not going to extend him. So you've got a guy in round 1 for best case scenario, 4 years. That's if he pans out. I don't know.
I mean, look, and let's just go ahead and put all of that to the side. All right, let's say it's a receiver that we love, like over the top guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're still going to be asking the same question. Like, all right, so we just drafted this guy 1 overall. Who's gone? Because he's not going to get the reps. He's not going to get on the field. So is it going to be Deebo? Is it going to be Brandon Ayuk? Is it going to be Juwan? And even if it was Juwan, do you know how many people would, even if he was a receiver that everybody was okay with, right? if we got rid of Juwan, right, and put that guy there at 31, right, I guarantee you there would be a swath of the fan base like, did we really need to rectify that at 31? I mean, Jawan Jennings, is he that important? Did we have to replace him with a first-round pick? So either way, you're asking yourself, I mean, Deebo Samuels wasn't even a first-round pick. Like, so what are we doing here? I think that there were other, like I said, for the player, I see how he fits. All right. I see how he fits, and I get it. He's interchangeable between the three of them, honestly. Like, whatever they choose to do. If they bring this kid in, he's going to be an uptick to certain attributes that we just haven't had on our offense. I mean, Jesus Christ, we can't even get Danny Gray to fall off the bed and roll onto the field. Like, I mean, Jesus Christ, can't even get him.
Right.
Where are you, Danny? You know what I'm saying? So I get it. Like, we need some pop. We need some speed on the field. You know, defenses, quite frankly, aren't scared of us from like a speed standpoint. I wouldn't be. Or defensively, if I faced the Niners, like, these motherfuckers can't run. So I get it. But I just feel like if you were going to do that, then you could have got your offensive lineman early. Like, you know, and again, it's like, you can't tell me that Kingsley Suamataia and the other kid that went before Dominic Pooney, like, the Niners wanted Pooney. Like, stop, bro. Like, so look, they got their guy from what they're saying. It looks like they panicked. They missed out on some guys that they really wanted, and they could have stood pat and got somebody really serious at that pick, like an offensive lineman. But this draft is kind of woken me up to just what they're not gonna do. And we can go on to the other picks now. But
yeah, absolutely. Let me get to the super chat real quick. James Foster says Pearsall is Brandon Podziemski, which is funny. Brandon Podziemski. Who's Brandon Podziemski?
Maybe Danny Gray does just suck, Lassard. I've come to that conclusion too. Maybe you should
that's definitely true. No, that's definitely true. Who's Danny Podziemski? Am I a lot? I don't know. I'm sorry, dude. I really wish that I could. It's not a compliment. That's not a compliment. Okay, I don't know.
Okay.
Warriors rookie. Okay, yeah, I'm not vast on Warriors rookie basketball. Jay Garza says the draft needs didn't match drafted players, 2 wide receivers on a run, first team. I will say this too. The 49ers do this, and I talked about it coming into the draft, that they always seem to take whatever they take early, they double down late, just in case they screwed it up. So they can be like, hey, doesn't matter. The 5th round pick panned out. We're good. Mm-hmm. We're good. So
yeah.
Anyways.
It's a weird dynamic, man. You know, you could see certain areas of this year's draft where Adam Peters was not in the building. You know, they just, you know, where's the, okay. So I said this before the draft. This is hands down the deepest offensive line draft that we're going to see in a very long time. Like, we're not going to see a draft like this. And for me, I was saying, like, all right, if they get an offensive lineman, at least they're going to get something that suits their needs later in the draft. And because of the draft being so deep, we may end up getting like an uptick of a certain type of athlete that they usually would not have seen in like years past, and like more like mediocre drafts as far as like frequency of good linemen. But it's like they even found a way how to get somebody mid in the mid rounds when there were still great offensive linemen around. Like, I don't understand. Like, you could have did way more than Dominic Pooney in the 3rd round, but I don't think that they value the position. Honestly, I think that they thrive themselves on developing offensive linemen outside of the left tackle spot. And they really want to be able to financially, like, be the most frugal at one of the most strongest positions on their team, so they can kind of throw money around with receivers. Because what's harder to move? Like, what's easier to move? A receiver or offensive lineman?
Oh, you're saying trade wise, or
Yeah.
I mean, you never see offensive linemen traded. It's always receivers
Why?
because once you get a good one, you can't let them
You
go.
can't let them go. And
Yeah.
and the thing about it is that rarely do you hear about offensive linemen like strapping the organization. You know what I'm saying? Where
Yeah.
are all the arguments? All of the controversies and the back and forth are with the skill guys. You know why? Because you're dime a dozen, and we're just trying to figure out if you're actually special enough. But you can't fake being an all-pro offensive lineman. Like you can't, like that proof is in the pudding. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like if you made it through the league as a legit offensive lineman, there is nobody that's going to play games with you. As a matter of fact, lineman, offensive line is such a black or white, it's such a black or white position. We've let more offensive linemen walk than we've paid them. Like, yo,
Well,
Mike
think about
McGlinchey.
it. I mean, let's just put it in the simplest terms. If you have 60 offensive plays in a game, an offensive lineman makes an impact on every single one of them, good or bad.
Literally.
Literally good or so everybody, it's funny because everybody says, well, the hand or the ball is always in the quarterback's hand to start the play, which is true. But a lot of times the quarterback hands it off. There always has to be the lineman to block on every single play. So literally every single play is impacted, good or bad, by an offensive lineman. Even great receivers impact 7 times a game,
Maybe
8 times a game. And Brandon Ayuk, who's somebody we love, he impacts more because he actually blocks and does some of the other things. But even then, it's like 30 times a game. I don't know. Like, it's not the same. And offensive linemen, great ones, do it for 12, 14 years, not
14
7.
years. They're around, bro. And
Yep.
even think about how many great offensive linemen still are able to be like serviceable with like injuries. Where it's like, even though they're not what they used to be, look at Trent Williams.
Yeah.
Look at Trent Williams. Trent Williams is nothing compared to what he used to be in his prime. Hey, Google, shut up. Trent Williams is nothing compared to what he used to be, bro. Like, but he's still serviceable and one of the best offensive linemen in the league because of his body, his size, his knowledge, and his God-given ability. That's just stuff about the game that you can get rid of at receiver because that stuff is like fleeting. Most receivers aren't making it to their second contract. And even if they are, it's because they've stacked on the equity and the experience to be able to carry that into the next level. But rest assured, athletically, there's a peak. And when they come down off of it, it's fast. You know what I mean? But you don't have to worry about that with offensive linemen. And it's like I'm trying to understand. I don't want to say I do, but I'm trying to understand like what their philosophy is, like with team building. It's saying like, all right, we already got like this eclectic scheme that we go off of where we run primarily inside and outside zone. Let's go ahead and develop our most expensive, hardest foundational pieces so we can get them on the cheap, right? And then when it's time for us to go out and spend some real money, we can traditionally spend it on the defense because they traditionally spend money on defense. They spend money on defense like everybody else. But it's just something about that offense where they have like some Boolean language that we do not know, like if, and, or that, where they are not touching that offensive line outside of left tackle. And this draft has sold me on that. You can't tell me this many talented offensive line late. Like Mahogany went in like the 6th round. I had Mahogany as like a top 5 guard. You know what I'm saying? There are tons of offensive linemen in this draft. And for us to come away with a Dominic Pooney and a Garrett Kingston, and they're both transfer guys who are seniors, like, I would be interested in asking John, like you said this, me and you talked about this, so I don't want to take your point. But one thing that you mentioned the other day is like John always like he never misses an opportunity to talk about how they scouted a guy well before the draft. Like
always.
He always asks, like he never misses an opportunity to do that. This draft, I didn't hear him talking about a lot of these guys that they had been looking at prior to the entire draft process. And I'd be willing to ask him, like, go up to Pooney and ask him, like, hey, how often did you scout these guys when they were at their original schools before they transferred? Like how often was was Purcell on your radar at Arizona State and you just so happened to follow him to Florida? Like, was Pooney on your radar at Central Missouri and you just so happened to follow him through Kansas? Same thing with Isaac Garendo. Like, was Isaac Garendo somebody who you really saw as a young adolescent prospect in Wisconsin and then you followed him over to Louisville? Or are these guys who finally got it together because they got an extra year of school and you're coming in on the back end saying, oh, rubber stamp them. They fit the bill. He's looking good for these couple of seasons. Never gave up any sacks at Kansas. And it's like, yeah, but you don't want to fucking go look at him at St. Bubblefuck State and see what he did there. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, but you want to see him at Kansas? Like, come on. And Kansas isn't even that good of a school. Like, I don't know, bro. Like,
well, hold on. First of all, little offended. You called out my alma mater, St. Bubblefuck State. So I'm just letting you know. All right. But you know, if you could not do that, that'd be great. All right, let's go to pick. We're only through pick number 1. This is great.
Yeah.
All right, pick number 2. We'll get through these ones much quicker. Renardo Green. Now, Renardo Green, I will say this. This is a player that I knew because David, February 5th, posted about him on Twitter and has been talking to me privately about him ever since. How good of a player he was. By the way, he did the same thing about Purcell. He had a tweet about Purcell saying that Purcell is going to go probably in round 2 or 3, or he said probably in round 3, but will be better than a lot of guys in front of him. Now, he didn't think he would be a round 1 pick, but here we are. So he liked Purcell as well. He still thought it was a bit of a reach, but he's been tweeting about Purcell for months, right? Renardo Green's another one. Love Renardo Green. So he had me sold on Renardo Green before the draft, and now it's like when we got him, I was very, very excited. I had watched him against Malik Neighbors. I had watched him, oddly enough, against Ricky Purcell, put the straps on both of them, which was absolutely incredible. I just feel like he's an absolute dog. And this was a position for me where I had kept talking about it. You know, everybody was talking about offensive line, and I agreed. But to me, the position that was always lurking as a real big need was the secondary as a whole, just all the secondary, because of all the free agents next year. You only have one returning starter next year as it sits now, and that's Jair Brown. Outside of that, everybody else is a free agent. I felt like they needed to address some of that in this draft, and they did that by starting with Renardo Green in round 2. What did you think about the Green pick?
I like Renardo Green. Renardo Green is somebody who I could see as somebody who's pushing like a new regime, kind of like I feel like there was a little bit of Brandon Staley on this pick. Physical man on corner, long, fast enough. 4.49 is great speed at his position. For me, what really turned on for me is like I saw his film at the Shrine Bowl. He was really good at Shrine Bowl, competitive, flying all over the place. One thing that I like about him is that he does not miss an opportunity to seek out contact or physicality. One thing I hate about him is that he does not miss an opportunity to seek out contact. Or mess with anybody. I mean, that's something that we're gonna have to coach out of him. Because he is damn near a safety almost with just how physical that he is. My biggest thing is that he just doesn't finish off reps the right way. In a sense that he's always in phase, he stays in the hip pocket, high points the ball when applicable and during the rep. But sometimes he just gets a little wonky near the end of reps where he face guards. He doesn't have any feel on understanding when receivers are going for the ball. And that's going to be a huge problem when he goes against pro receivers.
He's handsy. He's very handsy. Yeah.
He's very handsy. And that's going to be quite an issue when he goes against savvy receivers who know about late hands and stride frequency and stacking receivers and using his aggression against him and getting on top of him and letting him run up his back and getting all of those intentional PIs. Like, he's going to have a time going against some savvy guys who know how to use that yo-yo string on him. When they're like, oh, you want to be physical? I know how to play just against you. So those are some crosses to bear that he has to get out. get out of his system once he gets here. But as far as like all of those things, I like the pick. He's an older guy, but at least he's a true senior, right? He played at Florida State the entire time. And you saw his progression. He was actually upticking last year. I didn't see him actually being able to get picked this high, but for what it's worth, he's got room to grow as well. He's 6 foot, 186, and he's a natural 186. It's not even like as though he's got to do a lot to stay that heavy. And the boy's athletics, got a 37-inch vert. So for me, I like the pick. I like where they're going to put him, presumably on the outside. But if they stick him on the inside, he did work at nickel in previous seasons. And the year before that, he actually got a lot of games at safety. So we actually got ourselves a versatile guy who can play all over the secondary. He's somebody that you're going to need in a pinch. You know how secondary gets. It's kind of like offensive line in a way, where if you guys get a little, if they get a little depleted, they can start throwing some corners at safety, some safeties at corner, and it's good to have a guy like this in the toolbox when you're going through a season, somebody that could play across the whole secondary, and in a pinch, he can play safety. Not to mention that we got another special teams demon. I've been looking at, I kind of feel like that's a subject that's kind of being swept under the rug. Our special teams have been biting us in the ass all year, right? We either have bad returners, all right, or we either muffin fumbles, or we getting kickoffs and punt returns gouged out of our asses every game we play somebody. It's like, it's time for us to get more viable guys. And I feel like bad special teams speaks to depth on your team. I'm telling you, man, that's why the Ravens are so fucking good at special teams, man. Not because of the fact that they got a coach who prioritizes it and was a special teams coach himself, but they have depth. Everybody, you watch the Ravens play, and you get the feeling that Lamar's ass might be out there at gunner at one point. Like, everybody plays over there. You know what I'm saying? And it's kind of like, that's the type of feeling that I wish that we had, where you got the feeling that it was all hands on deck. No matter who had a C on their chest, no matter who gets the ball the most, you're going to see guys all over the field at all times. Like, that's what I wanted to kind of get back to. And I feel like Renardo Green is one of those guys that represents that.
Yeah, most certainly. And the other thing that I love about it, and you mentioned it, was the versatility. That's exactly what I love, because the way that I see it is they aren't pigeonholed next year to signing certain guys like, oh, okay, well, we lost our outside guy. What are we going to do? Or we lost our nickel. Now we got to do this. No, between him and Diamador Lenore, they've got the versatility to really play anywhere. So now it's like, okay, if they let a Travarius Ward walk and they go sign another corner, they could be like, hey, we're going to sign the best slot corner because we have two guys that can play outside, or we're going to sign the best outside guy because we have two guys that can play inside. I love that versatility. It makes life a lot easier. You're not pigeonholed into one thing or the other. And then to your point, when players get injured, and they often do in the secondary, and when it happens, it's usually in the mid game. It's like, oh my gosh, here we go. It's the scramble. Who's the guy that the 49ers kept bringing back year after year after year? Who's like 35 by the time they stopped bringing him in.
What did he play?
He was the corner. Everybody's like, oh, he must have something on Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. No, not Verrett. Not Verrett. Oh, God. Chat, help me out. Somebody in the chat's going to remember this. It's like the last 2 years he finally was Dante Johnson. There you go. The reason Dante Johnson kept getting a spot on this team is because he was versatile. He was versatile. So every time he was your fifth guy off, it's like, well, you know what? It doesn't matter who went down. He can play the position. We're good to go, at least for this game. That's why he kept getting a spot on this team. So I love the versatility. I like this pick here. And speaking of versatility, that rolls us into round 3. Dominic Pooney, a player who can play all 5 positions, a player who played a little bit of tackle, a little bit of guard. He could play some center. He probably equates to being an interior offensive lineman in the league a little bit more, but in a pinch, he can do a little bit of everything. That was really the theme of day 2, was getting guys with a ton of versatility. What did you think about this pick? Now, again, I know that there were guys that were there. I also know that there were guys they passed on, but can't really cry over spilt milk here. You can't look at the guys that they passed on and put that on Dominic Pooney as a player. You can, however, compare to the guys that maybe went after that you liked a little bit better. That's okay. But overall, what do you think about Dominic Pooney and this pick where they finally decided to go offensive line in an offensive line rich draft?
At best, he's a right guard replacement. At worst, we got a backup in the third round. You know, at best, they stick him in at right guard. He's not going to play tackle in today's league. His arms are too short at 30, at 30-inch arms. He's not necessarily a strong offensive lineman from a base, but he's poppy. Like, and I know about this because I was poppy. I wasn't a based strong offensive lineman. Like, there's linemen where their core strength is they derive from their core strength and they literally can get hit from zero and not budge. Like, there's some linemen where you got to activate that strength to get that shit going, especially from a core, right? And that's what Dominic Pooney is for me. He's got strong hands, but he just doesn't bring a lot to the party. And he knows it. That's why he has a lot of pop. He lunges. He leads with his arms. I think he has 30-inch arms. If I'm not,
no, it's 33, but it's in the 30th percentile. 30th. Yeah, it's still very, very short. 30th percentile.
Okay. So, with those arms, man, I tell you this, like, at tackle, it's a problem. All right. He's going to get reached. But at guard, I'm going to tell you this right now, man. I've seen some reach blocks from him. He can reach, block, and that's like the number one block that you have to know how to do as an offensive lineman in this offense. If you can't reach, you can't teach. Like, you cannot be here. So I see why they want him. He's got good feet. He plays with good pad level out of the shoot. But once he gets to the second level, he's a giraffe. He's standing straight up. Like I said, fast feet, strong hands, bad angles coming out to the second level because he is fast. He's a mover, especially with his short area quickness. Like I said, all of that stuff pops on the film when you first see him. And like, if you're looking at him with a lazy eye, you could think like, man, this motherfucker's all over the place, right? But it's like you have to keep watching him over and over and over again for you to say, okay, he just has a really good get off. And what's really deceptive about his get off is that he has a motor. He's in shape. His first play looks like his last play. He's got a motor. And a lot of times offensive linemen don't have motors. So that's what makes him look so good on film when he's always popping literally off every play. He's got a good first step. He's coming off with a flat back. He's shooting his hands. But once he gets there, it's kind of like he's just kind of like playing around with it. Like, he ain't really, you know what I'm saying? He playing around. He ain't really getting in there doing his thing. So for me, I would love to see him develop at right guard. If he went to right guard, just off talent alone, I think that he would just be immediately the best right guard that we have, right? Without even playing, if they just put him there. But it remains to be seen. He's never played that position. He's played tackle and guard, but he's played left guard and left tackle and then right tackle. And center, but he's never played right guard. Now, I will tell you this from a learning standpoint. Forgive me, guys. The dumbest position on God's green earth for a football player is play guard. Like, if you can't play guard, you can't play football. And that's what I mean. Like, if you think about it, all of the positions that people get switched into is guard, right? Oh, he can play guard. Maybe he can play guard. You know what I'm saying? So I'm telling you, like, it's a new position and it's a new level of the position. But with the experience that he has, he don't play college football for 30 years. He should be ready to play a new position. He got enough experience. So he could play at right guard. And I feel like that would be an automatic uptick to what we get. And it took me a while to get here. You know what I'm saying? Like, it did. Like, at first, I was just so hell-bent on us getting rid of the right side of our offensive line that I couldn't see the forest through the trees. And I mean, in a sense of, we did make it to the Super Bowl with this offensive line. Like, for better or for worse, they may not be everything we want, but I feel like this is that meme where it's like, is that your man? It's like, he's mine. I claim him. You know what I'm saying? Like, is that your offensive line? Yeah, it's mine. I'll claim it. Like, so, like, we had to claim it because we actually got to the chip with him. I just feel like, you know, what we added in the draft is kind of a little anticlimactic. Like it's kind of like we did all that for this, but we did make it to the offensive line with him. If we find a good spot for him as far as the right guard, possibly center, that could even be any better. But knowing this team, I don't think he'll see the field. I think he's going to be a strong backup. You know, we'll see him in spurts if somebody needs a blow or something. But again, a third round pick to be a backup. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know how I feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to hold, like I said, for me personally, I don't want to hold the fact that they didn't go offensive lineman in round 1 or 2 against Dominic Pooney. I like Dominic Pooney. I like the pick. I like the versatility. But again, if they had gone lineman in round 2, I don't know that they would have started either, right? Like they like their Colton McKivitz. If they had gone right tackle, like, can we guarantee that Stu Mataia would have started at right tackle, even if we think he's better today? No, I can't, not with Shanahan. So to me, yes, I would have loved to have gone offensive line earlier. I think the fastest way to find a starter was through the center position. That's why I was hoping that JPJ would be the guy in round 1 or what have you. But that being said, I like Dominic Pooney. I like this pick. I like the versatility. And they're going to need him. They're going to need him at some point.
JPJ is going to want $10 million you see what I'm saying? Like, I'm seeing how they're thinking.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you go get a JPJ, and he's gonna be like, he's not only is he gonna come
more than 10 million, probably.
Exactly, and he's gonna look at Jake Brendel like, man, are you guys serious?
Well, like, I mean, you can only pay him whatever, but when you get past that rookie contract, if he pans out like he should, he's gonna get paid. So yeah, I get that. I get all that.
We're like, you know what I'm saying? We like Terrence Howard and what's that pimp movie they used to come out with, Hustle and Flow. Like, you need me, man. Like, we always go bring in like these whack offensive linemen. You wasn't nothing without me, man. You was at Central Missouri, man. You know what I'm saying? At Kansas, man, trying to pimp for some dollars, man. You need me. You don't need no big contract. That's how we treat offensive linemen. Like, we bring them in low. We make them feel grateful just to be on the team. Like, look at Western Richburg, like Jake Brendel. Jake Brendel was a UDFA, bro. You don't think that he is like thrilled with his $3 million? He's over the moon.
Of course.
You know what I'm saying? Like, they're not going to bring in no blue chip guy that's going to be like, Kyle, respectfully, fuck you, pay me. Like, fuck you and that outside zone. Your ass is going to pay me. They don't need all that shit. So that's why they always gonna get these linemen in here. Like, we should have known they wasn't gonna get no real linemen, Jesse. We got hoes, Johnny. We got hoes.
Yeah. Jamario says, do y'all see Ayuk on the field come week 1? I do. I never subscribed to the fact that he was going to get traded during the draft. I mean, anybody that watched, I basically said that he was likely not going anywhere, and he didn't. So I definitely think he'll be on the field week 1. The only scenario that he wouldn't be, injury aside, of course, is that if they try to play him on the 5th-year option, and then it's like, okay, well, maybe the Purcell pick does become valuable because you're going to need it for a few weeks till Ike's back. I think they get the deal done. I think they figure it out. Brother Bob says, Coach and Nails, did KC whoop him basically in the draft? Yeah, I mean, on paper, sure. Yeah, they definitely did. I've got a chart that I'll show you guys, or something that I put together that, I don't know, man. It's starting to be a pretty apparent that you can say that the 49ers value offensive linemen all you want or whatever, but no.
That shit, dog.
The trenches in general over the last 2 years, they have not put any value into the trenches. So
they lucked
I don't know
on Joe Staley. They lucked up on Trent. They whiffed on Mike McGlinchey. They dude, they don't be.
Yeah, but Staley was that was
they lucked up.
No, but Staley was a Harbaugh pick. Harbaugh loves his offensive linemen. Like, they're gonna keep picking them. He just came in and they needed a wide receiver so bad. He's like, yeah, that's cool. We do need a wide receiver. Tackle.
Who the hell is Scott?
We're taking a tackle. Who's talking about Scott Pioli?
Itchy95 says Scott Pioli on NFL Network is saying outside of top 3 receivers that Pearsall is one, if not the best wide receiver fits. Best wide receiver fits. Read your comment again. That does not mean that he's the best wide receiver, period, at that position. He's just the best fit. He's a fit. Like, again, like this is circular conversation. Like, this is exactly what he's saying. He's a fit. He's a fit. I don't see anything that's transcending. You know what I'm saying? But just to answer Brother Bob's question, I think it's hard it can get dangerous comparing drafts because our rosters aren't the same, right? KC had a lot more things to handle than we did, in my opinion. So it's going to look like they, as far as the draft is concerned, in a vacuum that they did better than us. But I mean, what really sucks is that they had more holes to fill than us. So they had to outdraft us, but they still beat our ass. So, I mean, that's what really sucks. like
yeah, I mean,
during the draft, and they still beat us.
What's crazy is they took 3 offensive linemen. I could be mistaken. I think it was 3. But this is a team that already has 3 elite interior guys. And they took 3 offensive linemen, realizing that this is an offensive line rich draft. We took 2, and we need to rework the whole damn thing, basically.
Man, we took
in the next couple of years
that were in witness protection programs. These motherfuckers left their original schools and went on the lam to these other schools with the old school Siskel and Ebert glasses with the fake nose and the mustache.
I like Cooney. Chill out. Corey says, how do you feel about the other teams in the NFC West and their drafts? Thanks for the content from a Seahawks fan. I like their drafts. This is a topic of conversation for me tomorrow, so I'm not going to comment too much on it. Stay tuned tomorrow, Corey, and I'll answer all of these questions. But yeah, I did. Seattle, I thought, especially not having a pick in round 3, or excuse me, in round 2, who they got in 1 and 3 is like, they killed it. They killed it. So
especially Seattle.
Yeah, they did a great job. The Rams did a great job. Arizona did a great job. I mean, and even the 49ers, I gave a B. I felt like the division as a whole drafted really, really well overall. Dariush guy said, could we trade Debo for Rosengarten after June 1st? That would be pretty wild, trading him to Baltimore. Baltimore needs an offensive lineman. They are not going to just make that trade. I'll guarantee it. And Dazza says, are the 49ers really cool with McKivitz at right tackle after making BP the franchise quarterback and giving him $50 million? Is Brock Purdy going to make it to be the franchise quarterback and make $50 million with this offensive line in front of him? Obviously, they don't give a damn now. Why would they give a damn then? I don't know. Boogie says, usually when all fans dislike picks, it's a hitter. I guess. I mean, here's the other thing. And
that's
this is
a way to look at it.
No, that's fine. That's totally fine. I mean, you know what, though? I will say this. This is the same conversation that I had around Jake Moody, which was the rebuttal is, oh, when Pearsall balls, I'm coming to you and be like, where were you? It's like, no. Nobody once said that Pearsall's not a good player. What we said was there was better value. So Pearsall can't just ball. He has to be better than all the other guys who were better prospects. You understand me? For this to work. Jake Moody, this is the comment I've been getting a lot. It's like, man, you guys need to chill on Jake Moody. Go look at Tucker and Robbie Gould and all these guys their first year. Those guys were undrafted free agents, my guy. They weren't picked in the 3rd round. That's the difference. Undrafted free agents. And all of those guys that you're talking about missed less kicks in the playoffs than what this man just missed over the first playoff run he's ever had. That's the difference. You can't just be like, oh, his percentage in the regular season was good, so it aligns up with all the best kickers. It's like, okay, were they picked in the 3rd round? And if not, then what are we actually talking about?
Yeah, I feel like even like this is why this is dangerous, in my opinion, or it has the potential to be dangerous, is because when you get behind drafting like this, then it's almost kind of like saying, well, we don't care what the need is because it's all about our need. Right. But if you foolishly are always going to get about your need, then you're not recognizing that other teams are going to notice that about you, and they're going to fix themselves around you so they can be in advantageous positions around you. Like if we always know, it doesn't matter what the Niners are going to pick in the first round because they're going to pick a fucking slot at 31 because it's their need. You know what I'm saying? You're going to have people behind you like, well, we don't need to budge. Leggett's going to be right there. You know, they're not going to pick him. You know, it's like for a team that is as physical as we're supposed to be a running football team. You know, the fact that we didn't prioritize the trenches. Okay, so let's put a thumbtack in, you know, Dominic Pooney and whoever his name, Kingston, Garrett Kingston, the blackest name with the whitest. That is that Garrett Kingston does not look like this kid, by the way. So I'm just saying, but all I'm saying is like, let's just put the offensive lineman to the side, right? We still didn't touch the D line. Like we didn't prioritize the trenches at all, man. Like we picked this kid up like late in the round, but we didn't get no interior defensive line. All right, cool. You think Leonard Floyd and the other kid are going to do it over at edge? All right, but man, Malik Collins and what Jordan Elliott, like that's what we're doing to replace Javon Kinlaw and Eric Armstead. I was holding my nose over that. Over what they called like a replacement because I just knew that they was going to get somebody in the draft. Like I'm saying to myself, like, there ain't no way in the world that they think that they're going to replace Eric Armstead, Javon Kinlaw, all these dudes just left with a practice squad package guy from Houston and a glorified like cinder block out of Cleveland. Like they got to go get somebody else. And I think a little bit of them is kind of like letting their arrogance show. Like I expected them to do more in the trenches, man. And then the fact that we didn't get it, and then we doubled down on receiver, like I don't know, man. It was just disjointed to me. I didn't understand a lot of the moves. Like even Isaac Garendo, like I was a big Isaac Garendo guy, right? I like Isaac Garendo. I know a lot of people don't, but I like him. I like him as an H-back, not as a full-time tailback. But even getting him in the fourth, man, he was still there. Like, you know, I don't know, man. It seems like they panicked. Like you can see the panic in each round. You know what I mean? Like if you look at what was going on in each round before they picked, like guys were coming off the board. Like that whole tackle run before they picked up Dominic Pooney was like, come on, bro. Like they walked right into that. You deserve that. It's almost like you got to go juxtapose. You know, Kansas City is like basically the 1 to 5 teams that you're kind of drafting against, right? There's opponents in the draft. It ain't always about you, always. And in a way, they could have understood like, okay, you got us first round. You want to go out and you want to go snatch our receiver from us? Cool. But we're getting our tackle right now. Or we're getting our guard. We're getting our center. Like we're getting value right now. So right now we know that you need O-line. We're snatching it too. So by the time we come back around to do this song and dance, you're going to have to make a decision because now O-line is gone. You know what I'm saying? So it's like there's a way how you can look at the people that are around close and below you in the draft where, yeah, you know, you can go after your board, but at the same time, man, like you could play a little bit of obfuscation and like a little bit of interference too. And for anybody who's saying that, oh, coach, that's pie in the side. That's pie in the sky. Like put your controller down. This isn't Madden. How the fuck do you think we get Christian McCaffrey? Half the motivation for picking him up is because the Rams were going to get his ass. And we did not want to see him in LA. So like miss me with that bullshit. They weren't thinking. There was a lot of opportunities where they were just thinking about filling holes instead of like understanding how to get better in the draft. So, you know, it's unfortunate.
Mike Drops with the Monster says, glad to see you back, coach. Your thoughts on the staff banking on Kalia Davis. Does anyone else have the feeling that we draft a year late for what should be easy to see fits for personnel?
Yeah,
I like Kalia Davis.
I don't like.
No. I said I liked him. I liked.
Oh,
Kalia
okay,
Davis.
okay.
Like I had hope for Kalia Davis, but at this point, it's like, man, I don't. Maybe he could break out in year 3. That's a possibility. I don't write any player off until 3 years in, but it's like, man, You showed us nothing. Now you're gonna have to show us a whole lot for us to get interested. So yeah, I don't know. Dazza says we could have had DeJuan Jones instead of Moody. That case in point. James Foster says Chiefs didn't have a left tackle until the Kingsley pick. Okay. We don't have a right tackle.
Mm-hmm.
And Kingsley was there to be picked.
but peep game though. This is the thing. Like, I agree with you though, Jesse. Like, all right, from a fan standpoint, we don't have a right tackle that we want. But in their eyes, they got their guy. They got their guy. Like, all right, so you know how like you ever meet that guy with a fucked up car, but he loves it because he built it from scratch, and he's like, oh, you know what I'm saying? Like, it'll take gas, but you only got to fill it up a quarter because there's a crack in the tank, and it's just like, dude, if you don't get rid of this piece of shit, like, you know what I'm saying? But they love it because they built it and they know all of the dents are personal. I kind of feel that that's a little bit of like what Kyle goes through with a lot of different players. Like if he can say that he put his hands on you and he developed you and he nurtured you to a certain point, I don't care what your talent is going to be. He's going to make sure that he highlights you. He makes you look good. Like, he's not going to get 100 balls, but that Purcell kid, he's going to get so many looks. You know why? Because everybody knows that's a Kyle pick. That kid's going to get reps just because of that.
Yeah. Can't wait till he gets 35 catches max if he's lucky.
Yeah. And, you know, that's what
if they trade someone, they can trade someone. Brother Bob says, I like when Nails gets riled up because of homers. I just don't like the goalpost moving. Like, if you're going to debate me, let's have a debate, but don't like change the whole scenery of the topic and be like, yeah, see, it's like, no, that's not what the conversation was. All right, let's go quick. So we're already an hour and 6 into this. Back half of the draft, you got Isaac Arendo, Malik Mustafa, Jacob Cowing. They came in round 4. There was a lot of talent left in round 4. I remember we started this day and we're like, man, look at this guy. And then it was like, boom, 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 boom. First 7 picks,
was there.
Everybody's gone. Okay. So here we are. They trade up for Garendo. They trade their 5th round picks. They get Malik Mustafa. They get Jacob Cowing. Quickly, give me your favorite out of here and give me just your overall thoughts around 4.
Malik Mustafa, hands down, is my guy. Is that? I mean, I think that's not even like news. Malik Mustafa is the youngest guy. He's the actual like only underclassman that we signed in the draft. Okay, so he's a junior. That's number 1. 2, he fills a need. Hello, we actually picked the guy that filled the need and was best available at the same time. I think that's the only pick that we had where we filled the need and picked up best available at the time. And I love the pick. We need a free safety. We don't have one. I mean, and even when we had Gip was a Band-Aid. He wasn't really somebody that we were counting on for the long haul. This kid is physical. He plays downhill. I love his attitude to the game. He has a little bit of like, he's got ball skills. I won't say he's a ball hawk, but he's got ball skills. All right. The ball's in the air. He will make a play. He's not like, he's not, destitute back there. He's got good eyes. I love the angles that he takes. And he really trusts his eyes. Now, what he does elite is he plays really good near the line of scrimmage. All right. This is a guy that's going to come in. He's going to come down into the box with that type of strength and that type of space and speed, and he's going to make a name for himself. I mean, think Huff with speed. Just think about what Talanoa Funga gave us early when he first came onto the scene. You're going to get that from Malik all the time. That's just what he does in spades. One thing I like about him is that for as aggressive as he is, he does have speed. He's a 4-4 guy, where, usually your guys who play with that much leverage, they play with that much physicality. There's a reason why they play like that. It's because they don't necessarily have the speed and the quickness to really get around receivers. So they kind of use their physicality as a security blanket, if you will. That's not Malik. He uses his speed in the right way. One thing I say about him is that he's a conscientious football player. He seems to be a leader, marches to the beat of his own drum. You can see that even when I watch film, man. I mean, there's many times where like he's pumping himself up. He don't even need nobody to give him a 5. One thing that I do like about him is that he's a sideline to sideline player, not a hash to line of scrimmage player. Like, even though going down and going bang bang is what he likes to do, he will do the dirty work and chase down runs that are away from him. He does nasty work. Like, he'll take on blocks. He'll be the forced defender if he's taking on a lead block to get his other teammates opportunities. So, I mean, this is a guy, honestly, with Nubin, what's the kid that the Chiefs got that was so good? The safety that the Chiefs got.
In this draft?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like 2 or 3 picks afterwards or whatever. Yeah. I know what you're talking about. From Washington State, I think.
Yeah. If we didn't get this guy, I wanted that guy. But those are pretty much like the only 3 to 4 safeties that I thought were even.
Jaden Hicks.
Yeah. Jaden Hicks, Tyler Nubin, Malik Mustafa are pretty much the only like safeties that I thought were like draftable in this year's draft, to be honest with you. That true safeties. So I'm very happy with this pick. Like I said, the draft is hard, but I believe that there's no such thing as best available or draft for need. You get paid money to be able to draft for need and get the best available at the same time. That's why you're there. So I really like the pick.
Yeah, I like Malik Mustafa. The Cowing pick I enjoyed as well. I actually like Anthony Gold better than Cowing.
Yeah.
However, they're basically the same exact player. Like they're almost about as close as a 1-to-1 that you can get. So for me, I was looking at the profile of Gold as a late round prospect. So for them to decide that they like Cowing better, I'm cool with, because they still got the mold of player that I was looking for. So it may not be my guy, right? But I like the pick because they were looking at the same things I was and like, hey, this is something different that we could certainly use. So I like that. I like Mustafa. Garendo's fine, I guess. I mean, I don't know if he can play. I don't know if he can be a juice replacement or what, but he was never the guy at his school. He's got all of the athletic ability. It's funny because I said he reminds me a lot of Elijah Mitchell from the standpoint of a little bit of running style, but also the fact that we were shocked at the 40 time that Elijah Mitchell put up. So we're like, he does not play that fast at all. Garendo is the exact same way. And then it was even more funny because when Kyle Shanahan was asked about Garendo, he said he reminds him of Elijah Mitchell. I was like, oh, looks like we're on the same page here. So I don't know about Garendo. There were a lot of really good running backs that it went after, so we'll see how that one pans out. I didn't hate it. I thought that they could pick a running back at some point in this draft, so I didn't like hate it. He's just not my guy. Malik Mustafa, I loved, and then Cowing, at least what Cowing brings, I enjoy. So loved round 4. I was fine with that.
I didn't like the Cowing pick.
Why?
Well, I think in order for you to be that small, if you're going to be 5'8", 168, 4.38, that's like typical speed for that size. You know what I mean? Like, It's like having a lineman that's 6'8", 330, and it's like, yeah, well, I did 30 reps on a deuce and a quarter, and it's like, and like, okay, you're a fucking mountain. I would hope that you bench 30 times. Like, I feel the same way. I feel the same way about Jacob Cowing. Like, I can see if you put that speed on like a more impressive body, then maybe. But for me, I see a speed slot guy, who was at a smaller school where there wasn't really anybody in the receiving core that he had to fight reps from. So he was the guy. They kind of just moved him all over the place. Again, man, like, I feel so bad talking about these guys because like they've made it to points in their career that, you know, quite frankly, I never made it to. You know what I mean? So it's like you do want to like take a step back when you're talking about kids. But
to be fair, he didn't go to a small school. He went to Arizona. He went to Arizona. You know what I mean? He wasn't at a small school. He wasn't like a small like D2 whatever. Like, he was, you know, I mean, it's Arizona. It's not the cream of the crop necessarily in the Pac-12, but he was in the Pac-12.
Yeah, but again, you making me do this. He was in the Pac-12, but he was in witness protection in the Pac-12. He started at UTEP. in the Conference USA, like another guy who had to transfer. It's like, I just, for me, like I can see if you got one, two, that's a coincidence. But the whole damn draft, bruh, but maybe two of them, everybody transferred, everybody's a senior. It's like, it's almost kind of like they forgot to scout this year. And it was like, oh shit, what do we do in the last 2 months? Well, fuck it, just get seniors, dude. Like whoever transferred, figure out where they went. Like, it just seems a little too like coincidental to me. It feels like that even
that
if
everybody was a transfer.
Yeah, it seems like even if, hold on, and let me say this because I just saw that. I was waiting for that, James. I'm glad you brought that up. Transferring isn't what it used to be. I get it. But I'd much rather take a Caleb Downs who transferred in his freshman year, or I'd much rather take a athlete who transferred in the middle of his career and lateraled, okay? Which means that you went from like North Carolina to NC State, or you went from like Alabama to Ohio State, or you went from Virginia Tech to like Wake Forest, right? But these aren't laterals. These are guys clearly trying to get an uptick on their career. They're going to better schools than the schools that they were at before they got there, and they didn't leave in the middle of their careers. They left when they had finished their breakfast. They were seniors already. So it's like, man, if you weren't an NFL prospect as a senior at your old school, and then all of a sudden you had a come to Jesus moment at these new schools where you get all of the reps, you know that they need you because you're coming in as a senior, so they have an immediate role for you. You're polished. You've already played the game of football, and you're coming into a conference where, yes, these are better players, but you're a grown-ass man. You're grown. You're 23. Like, how much of a transition can this really be for you? Are you that scared of Kansas? Or Louisville? Like, I'm just looking at this from a context of football, bro. Like, if I had a cousin or a son or somebody who was in my life and they were at a smaller school and it was like, hey, coach, like if I had a kid at Bowie State, it's like, yeah, I'm trying to go to Maryland my senior year. And it's like, well, is it worth it? Motherfucker, you better be like an All-American here before you talk about transferring to Maryland. You only got 1 year to make this happen. You sure you good enough to do this? And if you do, are you gonna have scouts asking real questions? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I would really like somebody to ask these guys, like, and it's not because we hating on the draft or we don't want to see these guys do good. That's ridiculous. We want to see all these guys succeed. But it would be a good question to ask John and Kyle, like, all right, due to the fact that you have like all seniors in your draft class except one, and two of them are only traditional seniors. All of them are extra COVID year seniors that transferred. Did any of your scouting department find these guys before they transferred? Were any of you guys scouting these guys at their original schools, or did literally all of you find these guys when they transferred? Ergo, you have literally 1 year and maybe a half a season of scouting that you've done on these people. That doesn't necessarily sound like a thorough job to me.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I prefer I prefer gold to cowing, but I don't know. I like the profile of player. I really wanted it, so I was fine with it. Right? Again, not my guy. We'll see how that ends up working out for him. I just felt like gold played a little bit bigger. He was 5 pounds heavier, but on a 5'8" frame, that's that can be a lot. He also played outside in college. He was an outside receiver who is going to be asked to move in. And playing outside at 5'8" at any level is hard to do. He was able to do that. And he was an All-American punt returner. So for me, I preferred gold. Cowling fits the profile, so I'll deal with it. And then lastly, round 6, they took Jarrett Kingston. Round 7, they took Tatum Bethune. Kingston is whatever. Again, he fits the profile like you're talking about with the transfer. Bo Limmer was there. He went 2 picks later to the Rams. So that was like, okay, maybe he'll end up being better than Bo Limmer. But man, I really thought Bo Limmer was a pretty dang good prospect to be there in round 6. I was
perfect
like,
for our offense.
Dude, we went out because we had done the draft and I had left in round 6. So I went out to dinner with my family, and my youngest and I are sitting next to each other. We're glued in on the draft out to dinner. And I'm like sitting there, I'm like, please be Bo Limmer. Please be Bo Limmer. Please be Bo Limmer. Ah, crapped out. Jared Kingston. Dang it. So, anyways, but they went offensive line. So again, maybe their choice here is better than Bo Limmer. I'm not going to be too mad at it because again, it wasn't my guy, but it was a guy of similar ilk. And then the Tatum Bethune, which they needed a linebacker at some point. We'll see how this kid pans out. I mean, he fits a lot of the same kind of criteria and mold that they've gone after. So that's how they rounded it out. Overall, I thought it was, it wasn't like this amazing draft. Like, oh my gosh, we got everything we wanted, but they did address some of the needs that I wanted. I'm not crazy mad at it, but I want to show these charts before we get out of here because I think it'll paint a picture of what we're looking at. Let me get to the super chats, then we'll go through the charts real quick. So Dazza says, why not take JPJ or Kool-Aid instead of Purcell? JPJ could have played right guard if needed and then slid into center. I don't know, man. I would have loved that. And then they could have came back in round 3, and instead of taking Pooney, they could have gone Javon Baker, who, again, I've said this on the show, and people are going to try to pull receipts. I'm not saying he's for sure going to be better than Purcell, and he was drafted much later, so he better not be better than Purcell, but Baker might be a better player than Purcell. We'll see long term, but the fact that I'm even questioning it when one guy went in round 1 and one guy was like, what was he, round 4? I think Baker went in. It's like,
yeah, bro. That's
watch Baker. If you haven't seen Baker, man, and you think I'm just pulling the ish out of my butt, go watch Javon Baker and tell me this man's not a G. Okay.
Bro.
So I don't know. Mike Drops with Monster says scheme above all hasn't worked on and now we're going to scheme to stop the run, not mismatches, but scheme. That's an ass backwards approach. Tired of Kyle Shanahan. Yeah, I don't know, man. We'll see. Brother Bob says,
but we were hollering about Javon Baker when we drafted Ricky Purcell.
Yeah.
We were talking about, I was like, dude, Javon Baker is going to get picked in day 3. Why are we doing this right now? Like, it just, I don't know, man. I don't know how, like, and guess you have to say, man, and I'm going to say it. You draft who you like, man. Personally, they got to be good enough, of course. But if they don't fit your culture, if they don't fit, like if you can't connect with them in the sit down conversation, then it's a wrap. And it's like, man, they draft for relationship way too much on this team, bro. They really do, bro. They need to just get the best guys available that fit what they need to do. Like, what's so wrong with us having a knockdown, drag out offensive line? Why? Because you might have to get rid of like a $17 million a year running back or the highest paid fullback in the league. It just doesn't make sense, bro.
Yeah, Javon Baker went round 4. He's only 22 years old. Anyways, Brother Bob says, who's going to lose running back snaps to Garendo? I don't know, man. That's a great question. Greg says, check your text, go Niners and Bills. To be fair, Josh Allen, he coached Josh Allen, so he's gonna say Bills. I'll check my text, Greg. Thank you, bud. I appreciate it. Matt says, very underwhelming draft, not terrible. Yeah, I think that's fair. I gave it a B, but a little underwhelming, right? It's like the first round pick in forever, and then there's like, okay. Matt McEwen says, if we are going to start using the star backer, I'm surprised they didn't go with a really good corner in round 1. Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's probably a couple options and that they did draft actually in Green or Malik that could potentially play that. I don't know. I don't know if they're for sure going to go that route either. That's just something that Staley did. I don't know for sure if that's something they're going to incorporate. I would imagine they would, but everything goes through Kyle. Harold says, with this current roster, which rookie will have the most impact this year? I think there's a path for Green to start. I'm not big. Everybody was really big on Yedem when he got signed. I wasn't. So I think there's a path for Green to start. Him or Malik, I could see potentially pulling starting roles. So
Well,
we'll see. If now if nobody starts, then maybe Purcell's going to be the punt returner or Cowing, and then that's going to be it. I don't know. I'm not
I
sure.
don't see them. Like I really believe that somebody's going to get moved. I think it may be Debo. Debo may get moved. It's not over. There's no way that they keep Debo. It's either Debo.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, Jawan Jennings or Debo is going to get moved, and this kid is going to find his way on the field. We are the third. All right, let's just say we decided, like, you know what? We are good. Goddamn, we are going to throw the ball more. I've had enough. We're going to throw the ball. There's nowhere to go from 31st overall. Like, so even if we have this huge, like, revelation of passing the ball where we're this passing team,
even if we add 10%, if we add 10% of passes to last year, we're still last in passing.
Thank you. We're still thank you. So with that said, you know what I mean? With that said, it's like they're gonna have to get rid of a receiver. There's no way that we're gonna have the 31st overall pick at receiver. He's gonna be our fourth option, and we think we're gonna use him with the 31st overall passing attack in the NFL. We're far away from 30. So
really the sixth option, because you got CMC and Kittle.
Exactly. They're gonna have to. One of these guys is getting moved.
If
these
on the
guys
surface,
are drafting,
yes, but
dude, if they're drafting Dominic Pooney in the third, and then following it up with a Jarrett Kingston, I mean, these dudes scream the eagle until it screams. They're so goddamn cheap. There's no way that they're just going to get a first round receiver just as an auxiliary piece. Nah, that's too rich for their blood. Somebody's getting moved.
Okay. We'll see. Well, I'll believe it when I see it. Matt says, all I wanted was a center. JPJ, Norzad, Bortolini, Frazier, Limmer. What the F? I feel you. Dazza says, if Debo, BA, and JJ stays, have we given up on Bell already? What wide receivers make this team next year? We drafted 2 more. Golly, dude, I don't even know.
That's the great
Gray's gone. Gray is gone.
Danny Gray
gone.
Well, okay. So Danny. All right. So let's get rid of him. Danny Gray is gone. Chris Conley is gone. Tay Martin.
How many did they keep last year? I can't remember. What was the
5,
roster?
and then they hung out with like 6. They kept 5 last year.
Well, if they kept 5, they're keeping the 3 starters and the 2 rookies, I would imagine.
They have to. So they're keeping JJ Debo. They're keeping JJ Debo, BA, Ricky Pearsall, and Cowing.
Okay. So they try to see Bell on the practice squad, or he's gone.
Danny Gray, Tay Martin, Ronnie Bell, all of them are done.
Trent Taylor,
not Trent Taylor, bro.
You just brought him back.
He may be.
He said he was going to help us win a Super Bowl in his tweet. What the heck? Brother Bob says MMK, and guess who got Norzad? One guess. Super Bowl champs. I know. Okay.
Nah.
Yeah. Matt McEwen says, Brother Bob, too soon, way too soon. I'm not okay. All right, Joe. I'm going to get to these charts / stats real quick because I found them interesting. So guess what? My platform, I get to talk about what I find interesting.
You're starting the way this works. Nobody gives a fuck about this but me.
I don't care. And I don't care because I do. All right. So back to pick number 1, pick 31st overall, number 1, first round. Purcell. Assuming they don't trade anybody, the 49ers, here's this chart here. On the bottom, you've got total dropbacks. The 49ers rank dead last in total dropbacks across the whole NFL. Even better, this is not a hard number. This is a percentage. The percentage of dropbacks where you had at least 3 wide receivers on the field. The 49ers ranked dead last in that as well. So you're telling me that a team, now, unless they're going to completely change their philosophy, this is a team that loves Jawan Jennings and what he brings. Remember, Fred Warner said he's one of the best football players I've ever seen. We saw what he did in the Super Bowl, how crucial he was. Less than 50% of their drop back snaps, they had 3 wide receivers on the field. And they dropped back by far the least amount in the NFL. They could have, like we said, 10% upticks, and they're still last in both categories. This team is going to have to completely overhaul what they do if they don't trade anybody in order to get their number 1 draft pick on the field and get him some run. It's just the reality of the situation, man. It's just the reality of the situation.
Got to get him on the field. I mean, I really feel like Kyle is going to put this one. Kyle is going to put this one on Brock this season. We're going to watch Brock cook this year, boy. Because, like, I think Grant asked, or I don't know who asked. Maybe it was like Larry or Grant. But one of them asked Kyle about, and this is before the playoffs. They asked Kyle, they were saying, we've been noticing that, you kind of been getting away from the running game, and you guys are going with like a lot more empty sets, particularly on third downs, especially you guys are like going 2 by 2. Is there a reason why you kind of are getting away from the running game on like serious third down scenarios? And like this would have been a great opportunity for, like, sometimes I feel like Kyle doesn't have self-awareness. Like, he doesn't realize when somebody is giving him like a softball question where it's like, hey man, I'm kind of teeing this up for you to kind of knock this one out the park. Like, you could take this anywhere you want to. And it's like, Kyle like doesn't have self-awareness. So it's like that question was there where he could have really like took his time, but he was like, because Brock likes it that way. That's why, because that's what he's comfortable with. It was just like, all right, cool. So, you fucking spaz. Like, we're gonna like we're gonna use this because Brock likes this, but I feel like this is a continuation of that conversation. Like, think about it. What were we doing in the most crucial downs of the game in the Super Bowl? We were in spread.
Empty stats. Yep.
We were in spread, man. 3rd and 4 regulation, we were in spread, right? 3rd and season, right? In the playoffs, goal to go, we were in spread, right? Like, with the number 1 leading rusher in the slot on 3rd and down, at least in regulation, and even in even just to kind of show you just how much we're a spread team, even on the goal line, man. We play action to Christian to move across, and we pulled the center, right? We've all seen that play 1,000 times, and it didn't fucking work. It didn't draw anybody over. Nobody respected it. I think Kyle understands, like, film-wise, people are looking at us and they don't respect the offensive line. They don't respect what we can do on the ground. So he's had to use a lot of caveats to kind of like answer that question. But for me, in a sense, I feel like this offseason was an opportunity for Kyle to not necessarily get back to his roots, but just kind of get back to the things that he couldn't do in the playbook. And I feel like when Kyle doesn't find success with things, he just throws them away. It's like, all right, we're going to go with what works. You know what I'm saying? And if it doesn't work, then, we're just going to keep pushing into it until it breaks. He does the same thing with players. It's like, you get a guy, you get 1 season off him, and then what he is, he's like a junkyard dog on a ham bone. He can't let it go. You know what I mean? So, in many respects, I feel like 7 years ago, I felt like we were on the cutting edge of the NFL as far as like style of play, culture. I felt like we were on the cutting edge. Like, nobody is as tough as us. Nobody is bringing in the young developmental players that we're bringing in. We got the league by the balls, especially with all of these guys that are hitting for us. But now I just kind of feel like we're a little like a step behind. I feel like we're like a little bit like a day late and a dollar short now, where teams are kind of beating us to the punch, trading in front of us, grabbing players that obviously would have fit for our scheme, especially in free agency. Now all of a sudden I'm seeing like, oh, the Niners didn't want that player. It's like, nah, that motherfucker told us no. There's a difference. Like you can't. We got to get
Otani's interpreter says one factor missing in the fourth quarter. One factor missing is fourth quarter leads. You don't pass when you're not chasing. Yeah, that's great. But here's Baltimore way up over here. I think they have an argument that they were leading an awful lot too, and they led the league in runs. So I don't know. I don't know that that's as much of a factor as we want to make it out to be. I think it's good context. I don't think it's really a factor, though, when you're looking at a team like the Ravens. Okay. I just wanted to throw this out here. Not really too many thoughts on it. I just wanted to show this is what all the major publications rank the 49ers draft class. Again, you know, they screw up too. I just found it interesting. I had them at a B minus. It looks like the consensus for the most part is roughly around that area as well. So, you know, I know we're not giving it an A, which means we're haters, but it seems like everybody else kind of falls in that as well. Okay. This though, I tweeted this out. I went and looked because the 49ers over the last 2 years have drafted only 3 players in the trenches. So offensive and defensive line. I found that interesting. I'm like, God, that seems really, really low. So let me look at the division. Let me look at some of the other teams in the NFC that are high-level teams, and let me look at the teams in the AFC that are high-level teams that we're going to be competing with this year. The 49ers are way, way lower than everybody else. I mean, the Rams are up at over 50% drafting in the trenches over the last 2 years. The Seahawks at 44, Cardinals at 38. The Packers are the lowest at 25%. But they still doubled us up in overall players selected. You got the Chiefs at 50%, the Ravens at 40%. I mean, to me, the model, I would say teams in the league, as far as franchises, like top to bottom, are built the best right now are the Chiefs and the Ravens. So whatever they're doing, you probably want to stay pretty close to that if you want to remain competitive.
And those are the teams that are beating us. Like that's
those
what I
are
mean.
the teams.
Like,
yeah. And we're down here at 18%.
Yeah. Like when you want to play interference, man, like you got to start understanding, you know, we're eating high off of the food chain, man. There's only going to be like 4 to 5 teams that we really should be paying attention to. You know what I mean? And like for us to finally have a first round draft pick after 3 years of this Trey Lance stuff, I just feel like.
Oh, hold on. This is a great point, Shades. It's not the 49ers. The Chiefs have been in the Super Bowl 3 times.
Hey, bro. Thank you. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like,
the Rams have won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, we can't keep talking about us. Like, this is the
team that's won a Super Bowl. Hold on. Out of all the teams on this list, there's 3 over the last 5 years. 3 Super Bowls have been won by 2 teams on this list. The Chiefs and the Rams. They are the 2 highest on this list.
Hey, look, you can say what you want, man, but we have not won. That's the problem, you know, and before you know it, you know, this is why people hate the Lakers. This is why people hate the Cowboys, right? This is why people hate Notre Dame, why people hate like USC, because they're always in the fucking conversation, but they don't win. They don't finish. They're always around. They get all of the attention. They get everything, but the validation of actually winning. Before this, we had a segment before the Super Bowl, and we asked each other, we said, like, yo, what would change for the 49ers if they won a Super Bowl? Nothing. They already walk around like they won. They already operate like they won. The coach is arrogant like he's won. They talk about themselves like they've won. They talk about how the rest of the league is not like them like they've won. Their owner talks like they've won. Matter of fact, the owner doubled down. He said they would have won even if they would have lost. Like, this is where they coming from. So it's like, when you go up against teams that have self-awareness, and it's like, you know what, as great as we are, as much ass as we kick, man, like, we still got some teams that we got to face, that we got to handle business, man. Like, you know, we talked about this, Jesse. That man, we got hoes, man. You ever been hustled? And anybody in the chat been hustled? I'm not talking about like been stolen from. Being strong armed and robbed is a whole different thing. But being hustled hurts because it's almost like you gave your money away. Like, dog, like that's what this is. Like the Chiefs, where do you think, the Raiders are in their division. They go to Las Vegas every year. This was a business trip for them. You think that they were wowed by the media? You think that they were thrown off by the Super Bowl festivities? They've been here already. They probably stayed in the same damn hotel that they did the month before they played the Raiders. Like, I just feel like, man, everybody playing but us. Like, everybody,
Yeah, Shades. Listen, I agree. I mean, they've got great coaches, right? But like you got to give them something too. Like you can't just expect them to work with table scraps all the time. You know what I mean? And it's not like the defensive line. Listen, they've done it through free agency. That's how they've done it. It just, to me, it was shocking because what the 49ers are doing is a stark contrast than what the rest of the league's doing. And when I look at the teams that I expect to be competitive this year, they're all doing it differently. So in order for the 49ers to be right, they have to win a Super Bowl. They can't just be in the mix. All these other teams are in the mix too. You know what I mean? And you said the NFC. Well, brother, the Rams have made it to 2 Super Bowls on Kyle Shanahan's clock the last time I checked, and they've won one, including beating them to get to one. So just because the 49ers have made it to more NFC championships and been Cinderella and the glass slipper fell off at midnight and they didn't make it to the Super Bowl, they've done that more. Like, I guess, but they haven't won. The Rams have been better.
We ain't going to be in the limelight forever, man. Like, this has been a great ride, but this is 8 years, bro. And these guys are getting older, and we're going to have to replace these guys with real viable options. And it just doesn't seem as though that they have a transition plan in mind. It doesn't seem like it. And to like the off season, like all of the constellation, all of the like contingencies that they went after, like to go, like, dude, we have been getting told no. It is my opinion. And when I'm saying opinion, truly opinion, but it's my opinion that we've been getting told no since the day we lost the Super Bowl. Like I feel like even us getting the defensive coordinator, even us filling out the staff was rougher than we've usually had to. Usually when we fill out the staff, that shit is done. Guys are coming in. Man, it took forever for us to get a defensive coordinator down to the wire. Like, man, people ain't buying our brand, bro.
And James says the Rams never faced Mahomes, but they did face the 2 teams that beat Mahomes. They did face Tom Brady and they lost. They did face Joe Burrow and a team that had just beaten Mahomes 2 weeks earlier. I mean, so we're going to discredit what the Rams did in winning a Super Bowl because they didn't face Mahomes. Okay. You know what could have happened? We could have just beaten the Rams and then we could have faced the Bengals too, but we couldn't beat the Rams.
Hello.
So, we could have also not faced Mahomes if we had just beaten the Rams, but we didn't do that. So that's the way that went down. And then I had one last one here. This one was really interesting. Everybody's talking about, well, the Purcell pick is not a reach. It's a reach based off of a bunch of non-experts and da-da-da-da-da. And okay. All right. Well, here's a fact. This is a board from NFL mockdraftdatabase.com. And what they do is they compile all of the mock drafts done by every major publication. And they come up with a big board based off of those mock drafts done by every major publication. So based off of that, they then rank their prospects, okay? The 49ers, this is every draft pick in the Shanahan era that has been a reach, according to them, by at least 50% higher than what their draft spot should have been, okay? So a 50% reach. Here's every single pick that they've made. So based off of this, the 49ers shouldn't have picked any of these players. And when you look at this list, gosh damn, they sure are hitting a lot more than the 49ers are on this very same list. Not many of these players have panned out. I highlighted the ones that I think have been worth it so far. Aaron Banks is still kind of iffy, but I threw him in there. If you want, you could throw McGlinchey in there, I guess, if you would prefer. But Mitch Wishnowsky, Dre Greenlaw, Aaron Banks, maybe Mike McGlinchey. The rest of them have not as of yet.
Trash.
Maybe we'll see Moody do it, I guess. And Purcell and Renardo Green, who I love Renardo Green, but these two we haven't found out yet. But based off of that, Purcell and Green fit into that mold. So then what?
I mean, like I just saw a very interesting comment in here. Mufti said, "Bro, you've been bitter since Trey Lance." Dog, this has nothing to do.
I don't even talk about Trey Lance on this channel, bro.
Lance.
The only time he comes up on this channel is when you guys talk about him.
Absolutely nothing to.
What?
We don't even know if Trey was good or not. Like, this has nothing to do with Trey Lance. If anything, I wish they would have never picked up Trey Lance so we could see him fuck up the last 3 first-round picks that we've been missing out on. Like, we waited 3 years for Ricky Purcell. I think that's another reason why this pick really hurts everybody is because we waited 3 years. We waited 3 years for a pick. So it's like when we finally get him, it's just like womp womp. Like, really? This is what we did? Like, come on, bro. So, like, look, man, Trey Lance was a mistake. I'm here to go there. Like, he was a mistake. We should have never picked him up. Knowing what we know about our team now, they didn't do the homework on this kid. They should have known that the number one way to help that kid was to get him on the field immediately. They didn't do that. So they traded his ass. So what? First of all, it really is hilarious to me. I'm going to just take a second real quick, Jesse. It is hilarious to me that people think that I back Trey because he's black. He ain't even as black as me. Like why the hell am I going to be rooting for Trey? Like, oh, I want Trey to make it. Like, come on, man. Trey is like Will Smith black. Like, there's no reason why I would be putting my entire blackness behind Trey. Y'all don't even know how the black stuff works. Brother Bob, talk to these people. Like, they don't even understand, Brother Bob. You know what I'm saying? So all I'm saying is like chill with the Trey stuff because like I don't even really like know that dude like that. I was just rocking with him because at the time that's what black people do. Black people, when we get into a room, the first thing we do is we look for other black people. It's just what we do. All right. And when you get on the team, you start looking for other people. And you know what I'm saying? And you start understanding, like, all right, man, like this kid has a chance, but he never got the chance. You know what I'm saying? And you know, I don't know, bro. Like, I just think it's really funny how like sometimes people like to go back and like grab that Trey Lance stuff. And it's just like, bro, I wanted him to succeed while he was here. The moment he got traded, it was kind of like you kind of look a little lame talking about him now. He's like gone. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, man. Like, I feel like a lot of this list, to tie back to your list, but I feel like a lot of this list is emblematic of like some of those moves, like Trey Lance getting picked at 1. There's Eric
Muff. He knows that you're talking about me, but bro, it's not the conversation hasn't changed. I did a show like 2 days after Trey was traded, or the day that Trey was traded with the Dallas Cowboys guy. That was it. That was like the end of the conversation of Trey Lance for me. Now it gets brought up from time to time or whatever, but usually it's not from me. It's from a guest. Like, it was brought up today from Coach, and so I piggybacked on that and talked about how, you know, how Trey Lance needed to play. Well, so does Ricky Purcell, but for different reasons. But bro, you guys are the ones that talk about Trey. Like, it's interesting how like I was supposed to be like the Trey guy, and I don't talk about him. But y'all who seem to hate him can't keep him out of your mouth. It's the strangest thing to me. Make that make sense. Because I don't talk about him. Coach, you and I talk for hours every day. Do I ever talk about Trey Lance to you?
No.
Never.
When I bring up Trey, as a matter of fact, when I bring up Trey, you shut me down. You're like, dude, he would never have made it. Just shut the fuck up. He would never made it. It's over. It's over. He's not even here anymore. Yeah. It's over. Like every time I bring up like if there's like a conversation where like maybe I can, because I'm petty. So like sometimes we'll be on the phone and I'm like, if Trey was still fucking here, maybe it would be. And like Jesse always shuts me down. He's like, no, shut the fuck up. He's gone. There's no reason to even talk about it. You know what I'm saying? We got rid of him.
Come on, man.
I don't even want to talk about the blunder. It's like, and it's just the truth. The truth of the matter is that the Trey Lance situation makes us look like dumbasses. We really do look like idiots as an organization. So there's really nothing.
That's the other thing. Can we actually, let's go there for real quick. Everybody would rather get in this chat and hold me accountable for being a Trey Lance backer, but they don't want to hold the team that they root for, who wasted 3 first-round picks and a third-round pick to trade them for. Who do they end up trading them for? Who did they get in this draft? Oh, basically 3 first-rounders and a third-rounder for what? Mustafa.
Malik?
That's who they trade. Yeah, that's who they really traded it for. But you don't want to hold them accountable, but you want to be in this chat every other week talking about, oh, you just trade no hooker. How about the team that you root for ruined it? Why don't you hold them accountable?
And
that's
like, and
wild
also,
to me.
And also,
wild.
The thing about it is that the comments are perfect for the platform.
Yeah, because your dumbass brought them up. Period. What the hell are we talking about?
I like it.
Come on, man.
I know that like
stupid.
Larry and like David Lombard, like they don't get those tweets because the troll doesn't work. The troll's got a hit. You know what I mean? It's like, look at Coach's black ass. Look at Coach's black ass up there blacking it up, just being blacky and blackish, just black. He's just so black. I just can't stand him. His black ass. He's just so blackety black. And you know what? Every time he says something that I can think of that makes me feel like he's just black, I'm gonna bring it up. You know what? Coach doesn't like Ricky Purcell because he's not black. Coach loves Trey Lance because guess what? He's black. His faith is black. The way he talks is black. I'm so sick of his black ass. I'm just going to say anything that I want to say to Coach because, you know what? I'm tired of all this black business. Go Debo. We love Debo. It's hilarious, bro. Like, it's like, but you love Debo, though, and Coach is as black as Debo, but it's just like, yo, but Debo's not black. Coach is black. You know what I'm saying? But we can root for Debo. But fuck Coach, his black ass. I can't stand him. You know what I'm saying? It's just, I feel the energy, dog. I love it, bro. Look, SF Day drummer, Coach, I hate your black gums. Bro, you gotta love it, man. Like,
there it is. There's the comment. 10 minutes. From. There it was 10 minutes ago. Coach mad because we took a white receiver. Come on, man. Do you guys really? You can't really believe this shit when you say it, right?
Of his black shenanigans, his black ass. Just get him out of here. Jesus. Can we just get rid of them all? Don't need to play the games with them. They're on YouTube now, having opinions, wearing clothes, walking around at night after 10 o'clock free. Who is this guy?
Whatever. Anyways, there's the overdrafted chart. The 49ers overdraft a lot, and these players don't pan out. Ricky Purcell and Renardo Green fit that. We'll see how it works out. Brother Bob says, MMK, I'm dead. I will just shut up and watch Sheets Jr. here. Matt says, just win the effing Super Bowl. Yes, please. Brother Bob says, MMK, Kyle effing Levy said, hold my beer. I don't even know what you guys are talking about. This was a while ago. BB, all David for that beer in your face. Brother Bob says, MMK, I see what you did there with the Tepper restaurant. That was weird, too. Him going into that restaurant before the draft. That was so strange. Mike Drops with Monster says, Coach, you wild for that one. That wasn't even for this last rant.
Yeah.
Samir says, finally climbing out of the hole at work. Great to catch up with the all show again. Cheers. Samir, it's been a while. I appreciate you, man. I see you ramping up on Twitter, though. It's good to see you around, man. Hopefully your baby's doing well. Dazza says, it tells you something when the Niners trade with the Chiefs and the Chiefs take a tackle despite the Niners needing to upgrade at tackle. We're the best team in the NFC, man. I don't know what you're talking about. Brother Bob says, whoa, Coach, leave Notre Dame out of your mouth, bro. He doesn't like the Notre Dame slander.
Notre Dame ain't won nothing. What does Notre Dame do? Come on, man. They like the Ponzi scheme of college football. What do? They're holding like seminars All of their recruiting visits are in like rented mansions, talking about how you could change your life if you just sign 3 friends after you recruit. If you get recruited here and you recruit 5 more friends after you get a free scholarship. Like that's what Notre Dame is. They're like an MLA. They're like an MLM scheme.
Holy. Matt says, come on, Jesse. What does Sean Connery say in The Rock? Losers always talk about their best. Winners go home, and it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. It's the Conor McGregor quote. Winners focus on winning, losers focus on winners. I hear it. Paul the Third. Either way, cool name, says, how many of those players are still active in the NFL? And how many projected to be better busted? Big board versus production. Sorry, man. This was probably talking about, is it this chart here or the other one? I'm not sure. I wish I could answer your question better. You definitely paid $5 and deserve a really good answer. I don't have one for you. I don't know the answer to that. But it probably, I guess what you're trying to do is probably provide context a little bit, which is understandable. Brother Bob says, I'm dead at he ain't even is. All right. I'm not. Brother Bob says, I'm literally in tears. I can't with coach. Mike Drossel the Monster says, I talk about Trey and I think they made a horrible move. That's just how I feel about it. Keyword feel, but based on what we see, we will see.
But we
that's fair.
It's over for Trey, bro. He ain't seen the field in 4 years, man.
Yeah.
Like, come on, bro.
He ain't playing. He ain't played and he ain't playing. Matt says, let's talk about Trey. How about the 4th round pick we got for him that we blew? I don't know that we blew it. I like Malik Mustafa, and I think that's the one that we got for him. So, and if not, that's the narrative that I'm going to go with. So I feel good about it. Mm-hmm. Bob says, see, Nails gets riled up from the homers. It's wild. No, it's not the homers. It's the people that talk reckless. Those are the ones that get me, man. And I'm honestly like, I don't care, dude. I'm really kind of done with some of these people. So take it for what it's worth. It is what it is. Nick says, I feel like it's crazy they missed that much in the draft, but still didn't miss a beat. Speaking of missing, your last name is Falcon. The Falcons, I don't know what they were doing. That was wild. Brother Bob,
blackity black.
Blackity black. SF Bay drummer says, I hate black pepper.
I hate the back and forth because I hate the back and forth Wicker's neck. I hate that black eye. I hate black coffee. I hate Whoopi Goldberg's gums because they black.
Samir says, baby is doing great. Turned 1 yesterday. No way, dude. Are you kidding me? 1? What the heck? That is crazy. I feel like that all just happened this offseason. Dang. Matt says, I like Mustafa, my bad. Yeah, see? Using the wrong 4th round pick here to make your point, and I don't like it. So there. No, I don't talk about him because he's not on the team. If he was on the team, I would still talk about him. But he ain't here.
He was trash, and that's the thing. Like, if Trey was trash, he'd be trash. I'd be flaming him too, and I would be flaming him from the simple fact that I supported him. I'd be like,
and of course, Ryan, listen, if he was good, he'd still be on this team. like, do you understand like how this works, right? Like, if Lance had turned out to be really good, he would still be on this roster, which means I would talk about him. Why would I talk about a player that went to Dallas and hasn't seen the field? Now, listen, if Lance all of a sudden plays and turns out to be really good, and then we're playing the Cowboys, or we're just talking about the NFL and quarterbacks around the league, we're talking. But there ain't nothing to talk about. What is there to talk about? What do you want to talk about, Ryan? Let's talk about Trey Lance, since you want to talk about him. And you want me to talk about him. Do you want me to atone for my sins, my football sins, where I thought a player was going to be good? Am I the first guy that thought a player was going to be good that wasn't good? Should I hear about it every time I'm on stream? Is that where we're at? Let's talk about Trey Lance every time we're on stream, all right? Just so that Jesse can atone for his football opinion sins. That's what we're
really
trying to do here.
Like,
That's so stupid.
I feel like there was a time, not anymore, but there was a time where those of us who like dared to back Trey because he was on the same team, like I feel like there was a time where it was like you, like for me, you, Grant, Ryan, those of us who like really wanted to see Trey get a fair shot to play. Like I feel like there was a time once it was like he got traded and he moved on. I feel like there was like energy of this, like, hey, listen, shut the fuck up. Shut up. You back Trey. Just shut up and be sorry. Every time you turn on your fucking camera, I want you to shut the fuck up and I want you to just apologize. Just apologize for all the trouble you caused. All the trouble you caused. You and this black kid. All the trouble. And you deserve it. You deserve these comments. You deserve this hate. You deserve it all. Because you didn't fall in line when our Lord and Savior Brock Christ came through and handled it all for us. You didn't fall in line right away. And you deserve to be lambasted into eternity every time you get online. Every time. I'm going to make it my business to do this to you. Like,
sure.
that was like the energy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
That's the internet, bro. You know what I'm saying? You got to love it. You know, it is what it is. Everybody's going to take their pound of flesh. So
that's totally fair.
Yeah.
I feel like I've earned my way to be a hater though. Like it's not like I haven't been rooting for this team for 34 years or I've got thousands of dollars in signatures sitting behind me or all over this freaking room or that I don't spend my hard-earned money to go to games. Like I think I've earned the right to fan however the hell I decide that I want to fan. And if you feel like that's being a hater, then that's being a hater. That's how I fan, I guess.
Dog, we're going to camp this year, bro. I wish somebody would tell me that I'm not a fan. Yo, let me chill. I'm wilding. But relax.
All right, bro. Hey, you know what, T-Dub? And you're blocked. Just know why is this like a real thing?
No. He said, let's let it ride. I don't think he would do that. Me and him been going back and forth. I don't think that was a real thing. Nah, he wouldn't.
Your parents were in an accident, a serious car accident, and almost lost their lives. And he's okay. All right.
Yeah, it's cool.
I'll let it ride.
No, it's
if
cool.
You don't think that's where he was going.
You got to be able to roll with the punches, bro. Like I get it.
I'm fine rolling with the punches, but there's a level. Like there was the dude. There was the dude that was like, "Oh, Justy can't handle the trolls." It's like, no, you were coming on saying that you wanted to sleep with my wife every time that I was live. Like I'm not listening to that. That's a whole, now you're getting into a whole different level. If you don't feel like it's that's where it is, then whatever. But bro.
Let me put it like this. There was nobody, like, I can't express this enough, man, with like the most like welcoming and most YouTube friendly message right now. If you ever feel like you have something that you want to say to me that like really hits home, just say it to me in person. Just do it in person. And I promise you will get the response you're looking for. You don't have to do it online. You really don't. Just when you see me, man, I'm gonna be around too. I'm gonna be at games. I'm gonna be at camp. You're gonna see my big ass. You're gonna see me around. But when you see me, you feel like you want to say something to me, just walk up to me, tap me on my shoulder, and just say whatever you want to say. And I guarantee you, whatever comes out of your mouth, you will be met with the proper response. Have a nice day, man. Let's move on.
Yeah. Muff, I would say go watch the post game when they lost to the Super Bowl. I think that kind of lays that to rest, right? Like just a little bit.
Yeah.
I would say a little bit.
A little bit, man. Just come on, guys. Don't take it off the chat. Just come see me, man.
Big City Man says, LSS, this front office is making this year feel like an all-in season, everything they're doing. Yeah, I mean, I feel like last year I feel like they were just as in last year, all in last year, right? Like they know that this is the end of the rope. That's why Debo Samuel was asking if he's getting traded, because he knows like this is the end of the road for this team as it's currently constructed. These players know, man, they're feeling the vibe. They are feeling the pressure. They know the age. They know the price that they bring to the table. This is really
the
it.
end. You think they see the end? You think they see
Yeah,
like
they do.
not the,
Of course
but
they do.
they're all private contractors, right? And at
Of course
some
they
point,
do.
they're gonna have to like pivot. You know what I'm saying? Like they're gonna have to start thinking about that next contract, that next situation, where you're gonna go. And I feel like these guys are recognizing like, okay, I'm for the team, as they all are. Like football's too hard of a sport not to be like banded with your brothers. You have to be. But there is a time where when you fail or when you like lose, people are, you're kind of paying attention to like what's happening in that moment, right? And the only thing that's different to me is that the way this Super Bowl ended, it's not that we lost, right? Somebody had to lose. So I would never disrespect the locker room in thinking that just because they lost, all of a sudden the team's morale is just broken. Like, no, these guys have lost really bad games together. So they're going to be banded. But this time around just felt different from the responses that you were getting from the players, right? Like you felt as though the Eric Armstead was not on board. Nick Bosa throwing Coach Wilkes under the bus, saying that we were not prepared for this game. Even Juice, like in his own way, responding in a way of like, hey, look, I wasn't told all the rules. Like nobody let me know everything. And in a way, you could tell that they were a little beside themselves. Now where there's smoke, there's fire. With rumblings about moving Debo and possibly Jawan Jennings for not signing the tender and mixing things up with money. Like right now, you would have to ask, like, do they see the window closing? Right? Because they get everything well before we do. That's a real coach. That's a real question. Do you think that they themselves see that this is it?
I think so. I genuinely do. Yeah, I do. I do. Now, I don't think that players like Ayuk are looking at it like this is my last chance, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think they are all understanding that this team, as it's constructed, like this is it for the main characters in this play. This is end scene. This is it. This is it, man. And it's over after this.
Yeah. All right. So if it's
I think they know that.
So what's the fallout then? So do you feel okay? So let's reshape the draft. If they know, and maybe Kyle knows, like, all right, look, after this season, if by hook or crook, whatever happens, because if you're looking from Kyle's standpoint, he's got to be looking at when to pull the trigger or when to like eject from like this regime, not even this regime, but this window, because in a way, he's going to have to go back to Jed to be able to talk to Jed as if he's got everything under control. There's a difference when you're saying that the team is going to do X, they're projected to do X, and then they don't, and then you have eggs on your face back to your ownership group, right? And it's like, well, I misprojected, the forecasting was wrong. Then your ownership is kind of looking at you along with the losing team, like, maybe I need to get rid of all of this shit. You know what I mean? You included and your staff. But if Kyle is always going back to Jed as if like, calm down, I saw this coming. I let you know that this is going to be a down year. We're going to transition these guys out. We're going to move forward. And you know what? You're going to start seeing like traces of that in this year's draft. We're going to, number one, handle the secondary situation. We're letting Mooney walk, right? Number two, we're going to pay BA. We're either going to move on from Debo or move on from Jawan. Right now, we got to figure out exactly what we're going to do with the D line. We already committed to Nick, and Javon Hargraves is out of here. After Javon Hargraves is gone, that's the last really big contract that they have on that D line, right? We're going to bring in some stopgaps, bring in some guys to fill in, some short contract guys. They'll be here for a year. We'll move them out. And we got some light, low-hanging fruit, younger guys on depth to bring them up. We've already solved our secondary problem. And right about now, we're kind of moving forward with our offensive line issue, but we just got to handle Trent. If you're thinking about it, they could be coming to Jed saying, like, you want us to stay viable, right? Like, this is all about profitability. Then fuck that Super Bowl. This is going to be a dipped year because of where we're at. Work with us. This draft isn't going to make sense from a win now perspective, but it will when we start ushering out all of this money and these dead contracts that we don't need. So that's what this draft is for, to supplant the guys that we're going to move forward from. And at the same time, while we're playing with these guys, we can the front-facing narrative will be we're pushing for a Super Bowl. We're pushing to win, always winning. But on the back end, we've already offloaded Eric Armstead. We're working on Debo. We got to pay BA. We're moving off this offensive line. Like, I feel like, and think about it, they re-signed Colton McKivitz, but it was for 1 year. They re-signed Jake Brindle, but he's 1 year. He's done. He's one and done. There's really nothing going on at that right guard spot, and we already know that Trent is out of here in a year or two. So right now, they could be moving as if they know the window's closing, but not explicitly saying so. And that's why it's confusing, because we think that, well, this isn't a Super Bowl roster. You're not drafting like you're trying to push for a Super Bowl, but really it's kind of like, well, you guys can't really handle the truth. So as far as the fans are concerned and our ownership group is concerned, we're always pushing for a Super Bowl. But the way the money is laid out and competitively, especially of us losing to our rival in a down year, it's going to be 2 years. It's going to be 2-3 years for us to get it together. How do you feel about that?
Then I think the Purcell pick makes less and less sense.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, you started off the draft going with a guy who's going to be 24 this year.
Mm-hmm.
If you were going to rip the Band-Aid off, then he makes a ton of sense from that aspect. But he's not going to be 25 until he actually gets a big role on this team. And it's like, if you're in a rebuild, do you want your young receiver to be 25 in just year 2 of his contract? I don't know, man.
I mean, but I'm trying to be glass half full now. See, these are these moments where everybody thinks that I am just the perpetual curmudgeon, but this is my glass half full scenario. This is me trying to understand what they're doing, but from a positive perspective. Like, this draft isn't to keep a window open. This draft is to keep the depth and to supplant what they have to do in the future, which is move on from guys.
Well, and that's why I like the secondary stuff so much. That's why I like those picks so much. That's why when we started getting into rounds 2, 3, and 4, I really started to like things more, because it was like, okay, you got 2 secondary pieces when you've got all these free agents. You went and got Pooney, who can play all along the line, which means they're eventually going to need him. So that's why I like that more. The Purcell thing didn't make as much sense, because it's like, well, dang, to keep the window open for a long time, you're going to want a guy for more than 4 years of production, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I mean, I understand you want him for more than 4 years of production, but that's like traditionally thinking, like, you gotta, all right, so wrap your mind around this. When you know that this is the same team that traded up, all right, we weren't at 3. This is the same team that traded up for a player that they had only seen 1.5 years of football from, and were confident that once he got in the building that they would get him up to speed. They only played his ass 4 times. 4 times. And were okay with what they saw on the practice field with moving on from him. Dog, they will pick anybody. If they have that kind of confidence, like, Trey was nowhere near ready. Nowhere near ready. And you have to understand that either you think you are way too good at coaching, or You don't know shit about evaluation. It's only two sides to this. Either you're too full of yourself, you have way too much confidence in your abilities, or you don't have the abilities at all. So what are we going to do? I'm choosing to err on the side of they're competent. They're just a little too confident in their abilities at times. I'm not going to go off the deep end and just say that they don't know what they're doing. So if they can pull that off with that kid, and then like, hey, 4 games, whatever, sweep it under the rug, man, Pearsall played fucking 5 snaps and they'll get rid of his ass. Like it don't matter. It doesn't matter to them. They will move anybody. They do not care. Especially when it comes time to Kyle and them boy and that coaching staff keeping their jobs. They will bury anybody.
Jeremy says our window is not closing. When Trent retires, Brock's contract will offset his, and by then the cap will go up. We're fine. It's not I'm not saying that it's like closed forever. What I'm saying is on this cast of characters, in 2 years, over the next 2 years, so this draft, next draft, and the draft after, they have to figure out how to replace Deebo Samuel, Trent Williams, probably Dre Greenlaw, Charvarius Ward,
maybe
Hufanga. Sounds like they probably did. The whole offensive line, literally the whole offensive line outside of maybe Banks, but he's going to get more expensive after this year. I could see them letting him go. So the whole offensive line, did I say CMC, Kittle? I mean, there's a lot. Trent. So what I'm saying is this cast of characters as it's currently constructed, done. This is it. Then the window's closed. Then if you've done a good job, you're down for a year or two before you're back up again competing. So the window around this team is closed, not because of money, but more so because of age than anything. Mm-hmm. They can bounce back quick because they do have young talent, right? If you think Brock's the guy, then you got Brock, you've got Ayuk, you've got all the guys that you've drafted here. If Purcell ends up being something, so you've got guys in the stable. You've got Bosa, you've got Warner, so Demo, what have you. So there's guys there that can kind of carry that next level. But you do have to restock the cupboard through these drafts over the next couple of years, and they really, really, really have to hit. So,
no, I mean, I agree. These guys gotta. I mean, we're no better than anybody, right? The same way we look at different teams, and it's just like, man, you did that, and that guy's got to hit for you. You know, if he doesn't, there's going to be repercussions for that. I feel like because the trade that we made for Trey. It went out so long and we were winning while it was happening. I think that we have a false sense of like what your team has to atone for when you make bad moves like that, right? Because we were winning during that time, but we haven't had a first round. Us being in this position where we have to choose between Debo because Debo's overpaid and we finally have to pay BA, and all of that stuff is because these guys have been able to leverage our organization. These guys they've been able to leverage our organization because they know we need them. They know that we don't have a quarterback. They know that we are scrambling to find a franchise guy, and that's when you have receivers feeling like they're the most important part of the team. Or that's when you have DNs holding out because they feel as though that the team needs them because we don't have a quarterback. So the original sin, and you're going to like want to smack the shit out of me when I say this, but if the original sin for our team is thinking that we could get it done without Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy was enough.
No, it wasn't. The original sin was thinking you were going to get Kirk, bailing on that to get Jimmy Garoppolo. But the reason you got Jimmy Garoppolo is because you never even looked at Patrick Mahomes. That was the original sin.
Yeah, I mean, but what I'm saying is that, all right, so pound for pound, I believe that Brock Purdy is better than Jimmy Garoppolo, right?
For sure.
Right. So we're not going to go there. I believe that Jimmy I believe that Brock Purdy was better than Jimmy Garoppolo just on what he did right away and his consistency over time, right? But like, if you think about like a lot of the time that Jimmy was here, bro, dude, Kyle treated Jimmy like shit, man. Like he would gaslight him after games, like always blame him for shit, always talk about what he could or could not do with Jimmy. Like even in the NFC Championship game, like we passed the ball 8 times. That wasn't by necessity. That was Kyle proving a point. Like we don't need you to win. We don't need you. And I feel like the real issue with Jimmy and Kyle is the original sin with Kyle is that Kyle doesn't know how to work with quarterbacks, man. I feel like Jimmy, Jimmy's not perfect. It wasn't like Jimmy. I've never looked at Jimmy as a guy that was like obsessed with football. He's never been like a true quarterback to me, like just obsessed with the X's and O's. But as far as like knowing what to do, I feel like Jimmy was enough. Kyle just gave up on him, especially when Jimmy didn't want to play in 2021. What was that? 2020 when Jimmy got hurt and he didn't want to play. That's why we got Trey. Like they'll never admit that, Jesse. They'll never admit that the real reason why they were even looking for a quarterback is because Kyle was mad at Jimmy Garoppolo. It had nothing to do with professionalism. It had nothing to do with him thinking that he couldn't get it done. It had nothing to do with the hump. He got rid of Jimmy because
okay. So what you're saying is they got rid of the original sin is trying to move on from Jimmy, not because Jimmy was great, but because what that resulted in was spending everything to go get Trey Lance, essentially.
Yeah.
I got you. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
When they could have replaced him with
he could have just replaced it. I just feel like the efforts that they went to go to like prove that they did not need Jimmy. Even when they got the quarterback, it took them years to even still get rid of Jimmy. Jimmy was on the team up until last year.
I know.
Like, so crazy. What did you really do? What did you really do? You didn't get, he played up Jimmy's last year here. He was still a starter. He was still a starter. So what did you really do?
No, it's true. Brother Bob says, we did miss a beat twice. It's called the Super Bowl. Matt says he's now confused on who's black. Brother Bob says MMK Will seems like Kyle Levy. Well, oh my gosh, geez, you guys are out of control. Matt says, Brother Bob, then why does he draft white players? Oh my, I'm not even doing this. Sorry, I'm not going back 20 minutes.
They're good.
How are your this? Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. My coach, my peoples are in rehab. They're doing really good. Like they're on full road to recovery, bro. Like the first month was crazy, but now they're in like a much better place. Like I would not be on here if I wasn't handling home. So that's 100%. If you guys see me on here laughing and cackling and all that other shit, is because home is good. So my family's straight.
Yeah. Mike Drops a Month says last year was all in. This is the pick up the pieces.
I agree with that. That's so poignant right there.
Might be right. You might be right. I just wish if that was the case, they would rip off the Band-Aid and just push all the chips to the center, get rid of all the big contracts of older players that aren't going to be here for this second wave anyways, and move on.
Jesse, owners do not have the stomach for that type of shit. They don't understand football that way, and they make way too much money to like sit by and let it happen. That's why people like Robert Kraft are like amazing, because it's like being a billionaire, there's only like 2,500 of them in the world, right? Mm-hmm. And you know how much mental like strength it takes to be able to have the financial means to do whatever the hell you want, but still be like, I'm gonna sit back. I'm not gonna put my hands on this. I'm gonna let you. I said you were the boss. I'm gonna let you do it all. So I don't think that Kyle and those guys could like just frankly be honest and be like, you do understand we're not gonna win for like another 3 to 4 years because of all of these contracts. It's gonna take a while. They can't do that.
Yeah, absolutely. GA Garage says, I love these 49ers therapy sessions. Yeah, man. It's like we're all like a big family because we all root for this team. and there's infighting sometimes, and you got to take out the trash. And
Yeah,
that's
we
what
family,
happens
man.
from time to time. Matt says, Coach, didn't know about the fam. Hope all is well and glad to see you back.
Thank you, man. I'm like, you guys, like, all like, there are a couple of you guys that like reached out and like hit my chat. Some of you guys emailed me. Let me take a moment real quick, man. So, like, Jesse really has been there, bro. He's been there every step of the way. Great friend. Like, if there's anybody that is like truly helped me through this, as far as like my YouTube family, like Jesse has been like first in line, bro. So it's like, as a matter of fact, like the day it happened, me and Jesse spoke. Like the day it happened. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I got off the phone, like, pray, bro. Just pray. So like this is real life stuff, you know. So like this stuff, like we connected in more ways that like we just so happen to be talking about football up here. It ain't about the Niners. So all of you who have reached out and showed like any type of consideration when you didn't have to, thank you. Really, thank you. Because it's been a rough month. So, you know, I just wanted to Jesse will never say it, but you know, Jesse he's been like a true friend to so many people in this YouTube space. You guys have no idea like how many people Jesse helps, man. And this past month was just like another thing that like he picked up. He didn't make me feel weird about it. I never called Jesse about things that are going on with me and he's like, "Oh, I'm busy, coach. I can't talk right now." Like he's always on point. He's always ready to talk. Like I'm telling you, man, like you guys got to understand how great of a dude this guy is. Seriously.
Thank you, bro. That means a lot. Thank you.
Yeah.
Brother Bob's talking about the rebuilding, and he says 25 is RIP for Kittle, Juice, Debo, Trent, Hart. Yeah, there's a lot. I didn't even mention everybody. I kept like saying the same names over and over, like there aren't 6 or 7. But thank you for that. Val says Jesse still didn't answer my question. Who is making the 53 out of this draft? Who's making the 53? That's a whole different thing. I mean, I gotta imagine your top 3 picks for sure. Once you get to round 4.
I would be shocked if both receivers don't make it.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like all the guys through round 4 are making it.
Tatum Bethune, all right, I have something. I think that Tatum Bethune is going to make it and D Winters is going to get cut.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think Jarrett Kingston is going to make it.
I don't think
I
so.
wasn't impressed. I can give you something quick, Val. I don't think Jarrett Kingston is going to make it. Jacob Cowing is definitely going to make it. Isaac Garendo is going to make it because he's Kyle's boy, which means that Elijah Mitchell was on the trade block last year. Malik Mustafa is going to make it. Dominic Pooney is going to make it. Renard, I think they're all going to make it. Ricky's going to make it. Renardo Green's going to make it. Dominic Pooney's going to make it. Malik Mustafa is going to make it. Isaac Garendo, because he's Kyle's guy, is going to make it. Jacob Cowing is going to make it. We don't have a utility guy. Maybe Jarrett Kingston is on the bubble, but Tatum Bethune, even what him picking up, what we've done at linebacker, and I don't think we picked up DeMarcus Flanagan's fouls. He left, right? Did we lose Flanagan fouls?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't remember. Yeah, check it out.
We lost Flanagan fouls. But even if we maybe Flanagan fouls being gone, I think D Winters is the last guy out. I'm not really impressed with D Winters. I haven't really seen much from him. I like Jalen Graham, but for right now, I see everybody from our draft class making it, but maybe Jarrett Kingston. But everybody else, like I said, they're all seniors. They're all polished. They've all been drafted for a specific reason. You can see everybody who's been drafted, why they're here. I think everybody makes it, but one possibly.
Man, it's a tough roster to crack. Brother Bob, I didn't miss it. I brought it up and then I was like, I'm not doing this again. I apologize. But he was talking about why is Purcell on this team, and he was joking about because he was white. That's why I said I don't want to talk. I don't want to go back 20 minutes, is what I said. Samir says our window hinges are changing from the current cast and building around Brock Purdy. So it depends on how you feel about Brock Purdy as a window hinge. Yeah, and regardless, I mean, I guess that it does. It definitely does as far as like how you feel about the future overall. But even then, it's like if I think we can all agree that Brock Purdy is a competent starting level quarterback. Like
Yes.
the conversation comes into, is he a franchise guy? What's your definition of franchise guy? My definition is you have to be elite Hall of Fame caliber. I know that's not coach hates that. Yeah, I'm not doing that today, but everybody's definition is different. Mine is different. And that's why I say, no, I wouldn't pay him. But there's even, I'm not going to sit up here and say that he's not a competent starting level quarterback. So you have that at the very least. That's worst case scenario with Brock Purdy. Okay. So how do you build the team around him? He's good enough to at least keep you competitive in the playoffs as long as the team around him is good, because we've seen that already. They have to figure out how to do that and do it at a cost savings way versus paying big time money every time a guy is up for free agency. They're not going to be able to make those decisions now where it's like, yeah, just pay him. Who cares? We got all this money in the world. That's not going to be the case. So they have to be super diligent about the draft. So that's what it really comes down to. But I do agree, Samir. I think your overall optimism about the future of this team does ride on the hinge of Brock Purdy and what you think.
It's all about Brock. If Brock turns out to be like the guy, none of this shit matters. You know what I mean?
If he's like that deal where he's like, listen, I'm carrying rosters, is like, bro, if he's a top 7 guy, bona fide top 7, he'll be able to carry when you're not as good, and you'll still be like a playoff team that loses in the divisional round.
Let me ask you this. Who is the number 1 receiver for the Chiefs this year? Exactly. Right?
I mean, so they got 3 number 2s. I don't know.
Right. So who would Juju Smith-Schuster start over for the 49ers?
Well, Juju's not on the team. You're saying years ago? Nobody.
Yeah, years ago. Nobody. Who would Rashay Rice start over?
Jennings.
Thank you. He'd be the 3rd receiver on our team, right? Valdez Scantling. Who would he start over? Maybe Debo?
No.
Maybe?
Not a chance.
Maybe?
No.
Right?
No,
Thank you. Not even, right?
No.
So you got to ask yourself, like, all right, so hold on. So they're in the AFC West, right? So let's look at it. With receivers, all right, so they got Marquise Brown, Justin Watson. Who's that guy? Kadarius Toney, Rashay Rice, okay? Shi Smith, Anthony Miller, Montrell Washington. I mean, who the fuck are these guys? Justin Ross, Louis Reese-Zammit, right? Like,
you're looking at their team from last year? Yeah.
Hello?
It was ugly.
I'm here to tell you is that you don't need Debo Samuel, Jawan Jennings, and Brandon Ayuk when you got Patrick Mahomes. If Brock turns out to be what they say he is, then this is a foregone conclusion. It's like $28 million for a receiver. Get out of here, Tyshawn. Go fucking take a walk. Are you crazy? So that's what I feel like you're trying to get to, where it's like we're having these conversations because we know we don't have the guy. But when we have the guy, then you can get into what the Chiefs do, where they can trade up to go get an Xavier Worthy, who really, truthfully, is a number 2. He's not even a number 1 receiver. All right. But the reason why he's so coveted is because who's getting him the ball. So
yeah, Worthy only plays on like 3 or 4 teams where it's like, okay, I can see why you made that pick. But outside of that, it's like, I'm not. If Worthy got picked to the 49ers, I would have been pissed. If you thought I was upset about the Purcell pick, I'd have been really hot if Worthy was picked by the 49ers. But because Patrick Mahomes, like, that plays. I mean, 4.2 speed with Patrick Mahomes. I get it.
100%. And that's why, bro. It's like Xavier Worthy becomes an asset because of where he's going, not because of who he is. And with us, we are still in the who he is category of everybody who we draft. You know why? Because we know we don't got the quarterback yet. But when Brock, if and when Brock crosses that delta and makes people believers, like real believers, not like tribalism, like ideological believers, like real, like Jesus Christ, what I'm seeing on the field is undeniable. Then the whole conversation about how we hold on to our players will be changed. Like, do you think the Chiefs hold on to their core the way we do? You think the Chiefs fans are out here like, oh my God, Valdez Scantling, what are we going to do to resign him? Like, Jesus Christ, we're up Schitt's Creek if we don't get the Kadarius Toney situation handled. Nobody gives a fuck. You know why? Because they got the guy. They got the guy, right? But here we are piddling away on Ricky Purcell, right? And the reason why Ricky Purcell matters at round 1 is because we know that we don't have enough talent to ingest the Ricky Purcell. That's the part that people don't want to realize. It's like your outrage, your interest in the draft shows what we already have on the team already. So until Brock completely crosses that where we're like, man, we're good, bro. As long as we got people that Brock likes, that is perfect for Brock and that we can get this done. Like the defense need to get that shit together to help out Brock. Like when we get on that type of time, then I feel like we'll actually be playing ball. But until then, we a glorified AAU team, man. We just getting players. We getting enough players to stay viable. But when it comes time to see that, to go see that guy, it's a whole different ball game, man. And it ain't even like Patrick Mahomes. We saw it with the Ravens when we played against Lamar. That was a clear talent gap. You blind if you couldn't see that. You know what I'm saying? That was a clear talent gap. So, you know, right now, for us to prop Brock up as like our guy, then we're going to have to do it the old school way. When we go see a team, it's going to be, even though it doesn't make sense, but it's just the NFL way, it's going to be Brock versus Joe Burrow. It's going to be Brock versus Patrick Mahomes. It's going to be Brock versus Josh Allen. Brock versus Justin Herbert. He doesn't get to hide behind his roster just because you don't want to admit the fact that you know he ain't fucking ready. You got to wait. You got to put him in the gauntlet. You got to throw his ass in the jungle and make him come back alive just like everybody else. So until we're ready to do that, we're going to be stuck in the roster Olympics where every little player means everything to us. And every time we pick up a guy, it's so important to us because we know that we don't have the guy, right? So, you know, Chiefs fans were thrilled getting Xavier Worthy, not because they think he was a number one, because they know who's throwing to his ass. That's why.
Well, I'll say this. I'll rephrase it. You said it's because we know that we ain't got the guy. I would say it's because we don't know if we have the guy.
That's true.
Right? We don't, right? Which is fair. So until we know for sure we do have the guy, that's where it comes in.
Yeah. Because we got to know. We got to know. But we're going to find out. You got me right. It's not going to be this year. It's not going to be this year because Brock may regress. You know, we're not the same team. And I'm going to be fair to Brock. You know what I mean? Like through all of this, I want to make sure that we fair to Brock because Brock didn't ask to be here. You know what I mean? All he's done is just been lights out since he got here. So this ain't got nothing to do with Brock. But next year, we're going to find out. It's going to be his contract year. They're going to have to pay his ass. And it ain't going to matter what the team look like. He a quarterback who's viable, and this is the NFL. You're going to have to pay him. Geno got paid. Like, much worse quarterbacks have gotten paid before Brock Purdy has. So Brock is going to get a bag. And
yeah.
How do you feel about him getting a bag?
I mean, we'll find out. This is it, right? James says, what do you need to see to know we got the guy? Well, first of all, way more than 1 year. I mean, this is what kills me, James. And I know this is not necessarily what you're doing, but there are people that will come in here and be like, man, you're a hater. You can't just see what we got. Brock Purdy's elite. And those same people will look across the bow at a Josh Allen, a Lamar Jackson, a Justin Herbert, who have been doing what Brock Purdy did this year, they've been doing more than that for many years and say, he ain't it. But I'm supposed to be like, hey, after 1 year, man, got me. He's the guy. Let me see it.
Man, we family though. We can have a real conversation. Like, I mean, it's a couple of like other fans in here, but this is supposed to be family conversation. All Niners fans in here. Jesse, how would you rank Brock's games in the playoffs? Like, and we've been staying away from this. Like, this is hilarious because I feel like there's fans that feel like we take absolutely every opportunity to like be unfair to this kid. And that is the farthest thing from the truth. If you want to look at Brock's performances, man, fuck the Ravens. He had a decent game against the Commanders.
Go watch my post game. Go watch my post game after the Ravens game and then the week after. I was so lenient on him. I was so good. You know what I mean? Like, I really could have been like, this is it. And then to your point, after that game going forward, it wasn't the old Brock. It wasn't ass. I'm not going to say it, but it wasn't Brock. It wasn't what he had been doing. It was a definite fall off,
man. That shit,
and you didn't hear that from me,
right? And we was, you know why? Because it wasn't the time. We were winning.
It's too early. It's not fair.
Yeah, it was way too early, and it wouldn't have been fair to him. This is
not
second time going to the playoffs. Why are we going to nitpick this kid like he's an all-pro? That ain't fair. He's doing his level best. He's doing exactly what they're asking him to do. How are we going to sit here and try to like nitpick him as if he's a grizzled vet? But if you really want to run back the film, he was mediocre. He was mediocre. He was mediocre against the Packers. He was mediocre against Detroit, and he was mediocre against the Chiefs. Those are facts. Those are the facts. You know what I'm saying? So when we're looking at this team that we got that is eventually going to grow older, what is more easier to manage? One man that is supposed to give you 12 to 15 years of a certain skill set, or 8 to 10 players that you all got to manage the same thing with? It's much easier to do it with one. That's all we're saying. This is just team dynamics. It's team dynamics. And it's just, we're going to see how it plays out, because sooner or later, they're going to have to figure out what they want to do with Brock. And I feel like Brock is going to win his bag. Brock's going to get paid like $50 million a year.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I'm saying. It all comes down to like what your opinion is of a franchise quarterback, because some people look at Kirk Cousins and say, hey, that's franchise quarterback, or Dak Prescott, or you know what I mean? And so it's like, well, yeah, if your opinion is, hey, Kirk Cousins deserved to be paid and Dak deserved to be paid, and Trevor Lawrence at this point deserves to be paid, Hurts deserved to be paid, then sure, of course Brock deserves to be paid. But that, my opinion is not that. I wouldn't have paid any of those guys. So for me, it's like I gotta see big time something. So my my expectations are of a franchise quarterback may be higher than most. So when people say, oh, it's, you don't think he's a franchise quarterback, it's like, well, that's based off my definition. Based off your definition, if you think those guys are, and if that's the definition that we're taking and we're holding to, then I would agree he is a franchise guy. But based off my definition, I haven't seen it yet. I'm not saying he can't get there. I just wouldn't do it yet. That's me.
No, I think, and Brock has won me over in a lot of respects. Like, Brock is,
well, how can he not? He's played phenomenal.
Come on, man. And his temperament, man. Like, Brock has,
bro, we were just talking about this the other day. Bro. Yes, like, we were just talking about this the other day. We were
just talking about this.
How we wish that the team would take Brock Purdy's demeanor over like a George Kittle's or whatever. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
we just talked 100%.
We were just talking about this the other day. Like, Brock's approach to the game, Brock's like bedside manner, if you will, is fucking phenomenal, bro. Like, like he can lead. He can lead. So that's not what we're talking about. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the innate ability that must come from you and you alone. That shit can't get coached into you. You have to have it. That's what we want to see from Brock. And we want to see it on a consistent basis. when the bullets are flying and you're not surrounded by all pros, because that's real football. What we've been doing for the past 4 to 5 years, that's just not realistic. You don't get a loaded team every year. You just don't get that, right? And you don't get a team with an all-world defense, and you know what I'm saying? It's just, and look, Dank asked me a real question. Is Kyle that guy? We're all trying to figure it out. He hasn't won. He hasn't won. So what do you want me to do? Do you want me to crown him as if he has, when there's other coaches out there that have had the same story as him, the same issues as him, and they've pushed it over? I don't know, man.
Jeebus, this I'm glad you brought this up, because this is the conversation that everybody wants to have, right? So when I question Purdy after 1 year, I got people like yourself, which is fair. You question the Allens and the Herberts.
No,
let me ask you this.
A great recant. I love this.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. And however you answer this is how you also have to answer for Josh Allen and Justin Herbert. Do you think the 49ers lost the Super Bowl because of Brock Purdy? Did they not win that Super Bowl because of Brock Purdy? I'll tell you my answer. My answer is not at all was it Brock Purdy's fault.
No.
Now, Brock Purdy may not have put him on his back and carried him or none of that, but they didn't lose because of Brock Purdy.
No.
You have to then look past and look at some of the things, especially Josh Allen has done, and say, hold on a second. So you're telling me this man went toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes, 4 touchdowns, no turnovers, after throwing 5 touchdowns the week prior with no turnovers. How many playoff games does Brock Purdy has he started and finished in? 6? 6 playoff games. In 2 playoff games, Josh Allen put up more touchdowns with 0 turnovers than Brock has in 6 playoff games. And he walked away a loser to Patrick Mahomes after throwing the game-winning touchdown with 13 seconds left. And because the overtime rule was what it was during that time, he never got to touch the ball again. Somehow his defense, with 13 seconds left, gave up enough ground to kick a field goal. They lost the coin toss, and he never touched the ball again. So is Josh Allen not made it because Josh Allen is losing these games? You might want to think about that, because then we can move this forward to Brock Purdy and be like, hey, he ain't won a Super Bowl and it's his fault. That would be BS, man. Josh Allen didn't lose because of Josh Allen.
And they know that, like the Jeebus knows this.
And here's the other one. I want to throw this out here too. Oh, well, if he's so good, how come he didn't make a Super Bowl? Because they have to play Patrick Mahomes before they get to a Super Bowl.
Look what they got to get through to get there.
Let's do this. Let's do this with Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. Let's just switch opponents. Let's say Lamar Jackson and the Ravens at home in the rain got to play Jared Goff and the Lions. And then the 49ers had to play at home against the Kansas City Chiefs. The 49ers wouldn't have made it to the Super Bowl, and the Ravens would have. And then the Ravens would have lost to the Chiefs, just like we lost to. So because they have to play the Ravens first, we're going to hold it against them. It's like, no, they just happen to be in the same conference. We're lucky enough to not have to face the Chiefs until the Super Bowl.
Conference, man.
So, you know what I mean? Like, that's, I don't know how like that somehow escapes people. But again, however you look at the Super Bowl, if you say Brock Purdy is the reason they didn't win, then certainly you can look at Josh Allen and Herbert and these other guys and be like, they're the reason they're not winning. But if that is not your answer, and I gotta guarantee it's probably not, then you can't look at a guy like Josh Allen and be like, yep, he's the reason they ain't winning. It's just simply not true, man. It's not true. And if you've watched those games, you know that for a fact.
Yeah. I mean, and really, we had the easiest path to the Super Bowl this year with the best team in the league. I'll still say it. The Chiefs were not better than us. Pound for pound, that wasn't a better team. Look at what they had to do in the draft. That wasn't because they just wanted to double down on us. Those were real needs that they had. This was a down year for Kansas City. That's why this one hurts. And really, we didn't lose the game because of Brock. We didn't lose that game. We were unprepared. They outplayed us. Flat out. They outplayed us.
Niner says Banks contract not worth picking up, which is why we need a moral line. Good, not great player. Don't need to pay him. Yeah, that's totally fair. But that means you got to replace this whole offensive line over the next couple of years.
But then again,
Harold,
if we want to play devil's advocate, Jesse, and I hate to do this because I don't agree with this, but I'm going to be fair. That's why you possibly could see a Dominic Pooney and a Jared Kingston, because what the hell are you drafting Aaron Banks for in the second fucking round, and it's taking you a year just to get his ass on the field, and now when he finally gets like a little bit of consistent play, now he's going to get brand new and price us out the game, and it's like, well, we just lost the fucking second round pick, and we know he ain't worth shit. It's almost like the Lincoln Tomlinson pick. That's one thing I'll tell you, man. This is something that coaches will never say in public because it's just not coach enough. And I'm not a coach anymore, so I can just say it. But coaches know the players that they have that ain't shit, that ain't worth what everybody thinks they're worth. You know what I'm saying? But they can't come out and say it because they're a coach and you're supposed to be always uplifting and all this other bullshit. But the facts is that the 49ers know the same way with DJ Jones, the same way with K'Wan Williams, the same way with Jimmy Ward, the same way with Aaron Banks, the same way with Lincoln Tomlinson, is that we develop these guys, but we know what their intrinsic value is because we built them from the ground up. And we know what they command in the market is not worth what they truly are. So we got to take a silent protest and almost kind of like let them walk, because we know what it took to get you there. We can go get another guy to get you there, to get him there, right? So in certain ways, they're kind of like, hey, man, man, we've drafted you in the second round, brother, and it took you a whole year just to get your body together. No way in hell we're going to pay you north of 9 figures a year. I mean, north of, what is that, 6, 7, 8 figures a year. No way. We're not going to pay you that. So in certain instances, I can see where the Niners are come from, where it's like, man, I created you, bro. You ain't going to leverage me. You know what I mean? Like, I'll go get another one before I pay you.
Yeah, but then you're replacing a lot more than what we're talking about. Harold says $5 for Jesse being a real one. Appreciate you. Brother Bob says, didn't KC just beat us in the Super Bowl with a backup lineman? Yeah, their best offensive lineman was out, and they beat us.
Allegretti. But then again, their that backup that played got picked up as a starter by the Redskins.
Mm-hmm.
I mean the Commanders. I'm over here.
Yep. JL says we got the guy. His name is Tanner Mordecai at Rhymes.
You like that kid? You like that kid?
I haven't watched him enough. I don't want to give an opinion on a guy that I haven't like sat down and watched. So I have zero opinion. Sean McGee says, I've asked this to an agent before, but he has a press pass and can't answer. What percentage of NFL players do you think are on PEDs? How many?
80.
You think it's that high?
Yeah, 80, low 70.
I was going to say like 40%, but PEDs are different, right? Like PED doesn't have to be a steroid or something like that. It could be like the way that Hopkins used it, quite frankly. I think Hopkins was caught because he was coming back from a very serious injury and he was trying to recover from that injury. And I think a lot of these guys are battling really serious injuries. So they're not doing it to necessarily be bigger, stronger, faster. I guess that's how you look at it. They're trying to do it to come back from an injury and keep their playing career alive. So,
well, I look at steroids this way. Steroids is a genetics thing, right? Mm-hmm. So it's all about, I mean, I could take a stack and you could take a stack, but our genetics are different. Yeah. So it's going to hit differently. So I feel like
you're still going to get the best out of your genetics, though.
You may not get the desired effect.
For sure.
Right? So you could take something like Winnie, right? And like Winnie is supposed to like get all of the hydration out of you to dry you down for a cut, right? And let's say you take like Winnie with like D-ball to like keep your bulk as you cut. But But if you got like really like bad genetics where you can get like anemic quick, or if you get GOT, you automatically lose like way too much nutrients out of your bloodstream. Like that could just hit you differently versus certain guys that are like using that stuff for like, hey, I want to use steroids to recover, or I want to use steroids to bulk, or I want to use steroids to cut. Like steroids is used in so many different perspectives that it really does play on like, what are you doing? What canvas is this paint gonna be laying on? You know what I mean?
No, it's true.
So I feel like that's why I said 80, because steroids isn't used in the same guise as just, I want to be better than everybody, right? Sometimes you want to be a better recoverer than everybody. Sometimes you want to cut better than everybody. Sometimes you want to build mass better than everybody. So everybody taking steroids isn't trying to like gain a specific edge.
For sure.
They're just trying to get to what they want to faster.
Sean says I can't type. I knew what you meant when you typed that craziness.
I'm very surprised that you got agent out of that word too. I was very proud of you. I was like, how did you get out of that?
Samir says I'm a BP fan, but flip JA with BP. Where would the Bills be? Honestly, nowhere. We already see that Brock Purdy struggles in the elements. You think his arm's going to cut through Buffalo Snow and all that? No. Absolutely not.
And that's why. But that's what sucks about like this tribal conversation with Brock, because it's like there's
Brock
such
plays here.
Yeah, like there's such a visceral conversation around him that like you can't admit something that's like very clear. It's not liking the kid. It's like he struggles with throwing the ball in the weather. Like that's a clear fact. That's not me. That's not us not liking the kid. That's we've seen the kid in rain multiple times, and every time he's in rain, there's an issue. Every time. So
go watch. Do me a favor. Go watch Josh Allen versus the Eagles when it was a torrential downpour, and he's just flipping that thing around,
slicing it through the rain.
He's just in 80-degree sun,
like it's
nothing happening. It's
I remember that
bro.
game.
They
that
played in negative weather, bro. That throw that he made to Diggs against the Chiefs.
That shit was on a
60
frozen
plus
rope.
Yards on a rope in cold weather after a snowstorm and all that, dude. Come on, man. It's not even. We're not even talking the same thing, bro.
And that's what I'm saying. Like for me, I'm so happy for Brock because like I'm hearing that he's getting stronger. It's like I want to see some dope shit. You feel me? Like look. Brock is never gonna be Josh Allen. Brock is never going to be Lamar Jackson. That's cool. But neither was Tom Brady. Neither was Drew Brees. You know what I mean? Like everybody has something about, everybody has a way to showcase their special. You know what I mean? And it's like, for me, I want to see Brock. Like, I think scouting him for forecasting his attributes, I think Brock has the possibility to want to be one of the most like prolific processing quarterbacks that we've ever seen. Like he processes ridiculously fast. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it hurts him because he doesn't see things because he moves too fast from progression to progression. But that's what I want to see from Brock. Like I want to be able to see him and be like, dude, this motherfucker's cold. Like I just can't wait to see that attribute. That's all.
But this is a misconception.
The Lakers lost?
Yeah, I guess. Robert, this is a misconception. His hands are the same size as Mahomes. It's not his hand size. It has nothing to do with his hand size. And Yafi, this is where this is the issue, right? You're saying, yay, hate on Brock Day, how fun. We can't even have a basic, serious, legit ground level conversation. Like if we can't look at football and clearly say, hey, Josh Allen, who is pretty much the consensus number 2 or maybe number 3 quarterback in the league, depending on, some people love Burrow. I don't get where that comes from. Burrow is very good, but he's not better than Josh Allen. But a lot of people would put Burrow there, whatever. Josh Allen's like at worst on everybody's list, the consensus number 3 quarterback. Most people have him number 2, but we can't even get to a point in the 49er chat where we can just admit that Josh Allen's better than Brock Purdy. So now it becomes hate when I say Josh Allen's better than Brock Purdy. You perceive that as hate because somehow Brock Purdy, it's not even a foregone conclusion that Josh Allen's better. That's where it becomes hate. But to me, it's a foregone conclusion. I don't understand like how it's even a conversation, to be real with you.
I'm gonna tell you this right now, man. I want him to be able to have like he deserves everything that he's getting. He really does. Like, I know what it feels like to play and to have to like not be the best and to have people look at you like, why are you even here? And to really be like a family, like a band of one. Like I've been in situations like that, man, like where like don't nobody give a fuck about me. I'm calling home, like, talking to my friends because they are the only ones who care that I'm out here trying out for this team. So it's like I'm not a real one, but like I know how that feels. I am so happy for Brock to be able to come onto a team and just basically turn the NFL on its ear. Like I'm happy for him, but once you get the money, the fairy tale is over. You know what I'm saying? Like you are officially like expected to perform. You know what I mean? And the story is beautiful if you can continue it. But the reality is most people don't. They don't. And my thing is that we will be doing Brock a disservice by just shilling for him. Like, come on, no. So, he'll be okay. He'll be all right.
So
Good, bad, or
always
indifferent.
makes
Brock
me
will be
laugh.
fine.
This comment always makes me laugh too, right? Because isn't like we all agree like crunch time and like the most important time is the playoffs, right? We all agree there that it's more important.
I'd agree
So
with
Josh
that.
is a turnover machine, right? Right? That's the consensus.
That's
Josh Allen in the playoffs, 21 touchdown passes to 4 interceptions. That doesn't sound like a turnover machine in clutch time to me.
They just be
You tell me. You tell me. Right? So, and then let's add in the rushing. That's another 5 touchdowns. So let's see if he had any fumbles. 1 fumble, 1 lost fumble. So now we're talking 26 touchdowns to 5 turnovers. That's a 5-to-1 ratio. What do you mean he's a turnover machine and when it matters most? Absolutely not. But that's the perception because of regular season.
That's a play on words. Like turnover machine when it matters most is almost like saying like he's the worst of the worst, even when the worst matters. Like it's kind of like, nah, bro. Like, like he's not a turnover machine. Like and this is the thing, like comparing like quarterbacks is like it's a slippery slope, man. You know what I mean? Like, I just want to be able to see what Brock can do with this version of the offense because one thing that you can say is that there's no elite quarterbacks playing in an offense that doesn't service them the best way possible. Right? Like, they do everything for Lamar in Baltimore. They do everything for Josh Allen in Buffalo. They do everything for Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City, right? Like the entire offense is beholden to the skill set. My thing is that that's one thing that's emblematic of an elite quarterback is that the entire offense is catered to them. The offense is at the service to what they do well. Okay. You're going to have to start seeing that in San Francisco for you to believe the same thing about Brock. Right? In order for if Brock is what we think he is, if Brock is what his greatest supporters say he is, then you can't be talking about this is Shanahan's system. That's not the way that's not what the best teams in the league are doing. The best teams in the league are surrounding the team with the best attributes that help the quarterback. Tom Brady is known as one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. That offense was curated to help him. So when we start looking at this offense, if we're not seeing stuff to help Brock and Brock exclusively, then you got to start asking Kyle, like, all right, man, the audio don't match the visual, bro. You sitting up here talking about how elite that this kid is, but you in here drafting receivers in the first fucking round and shit. You need to get the goddamn offensive line together. How you gonna protect this kid? It's like you saying all of this shit, but that's the thing that I feel like I can't wait for fans to realize how full of shit Kyle is. Kyle doesn't even believe in Brock the way he says he does. He doesn't.
Brother Bob says nails. It's called homers. I try to tell you. Niners says that's why this draft hurt. We've been taking players not worth paying for a long time. Then we have to double down later on a pair of twos. 7-2 offsuit. There's nothing wrong with that. Niners says Brock can only become elite with his mentals. Only way that happens is if Kyle gets out of his way. Coach was just talking about it.
Very good. That's a very good comment.
Samir says BP has a more inspiring story than JA. That's true. Yeah, no, for sure. For sure he does. Absolutely. And it's an incredible story. But yes, he's not a
Once Upon a Rest is my guy.
Like, listen, come on.
He's asking great questions.
All right. I would love to take those great questions, but it's now 12:30. We've been doing this for over 3 hours. Much love, but I got to be up. It's 6 o'clock in the morning.
I got to be up at 6 a.m. too.
We gotta go.
We're going out. Me and Henny going to go run tomorrow morning.
All right, y'all. Much love.
Peace.